Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our movie memoirs. All right, so Dragon, it's January, and we actually have some good stuff to talk about. I'm not sure how much of it is good on your end, but I had a pretty decent month. So let's dive right into it. Let's get into the news really quick before we get into the movies. Okay, so of course, first we have to pay our tributes. Fortunately, Dragon hasn't been as brutal of a month for celebrity deaths as the past few months have been, but we definitely did lose a couple people, so let's highlight them really quick. So we have Annie Wershing. Dragon, I mostly know her as Tess from the Walking Dead video game.
Yep.
And it's really weird because Tess is a character who's basically like in the first couple missions of the Walking Dead video game, and she gets killed off pretty quickly. And her character got killed off like on the Walking Dead TV show right around the same time that this actress died. So it was a really trippy kind of art imitating life sort of moment here with this. But you know, very prominent character actress. Yeah, one of those people that we always kind of like to talk about where it's like you can't necessarily like they're not really known for one thing, but they're always popping up and stuff.
Yeah, the thing. So she's known. I mean, for me, I know her for two roles, but I think the most popular thing she probably did was 24. She was. I think it was the biggest character she ever played. I guess. I think she's like one of the character's wives on 24. I don't know if she's Jack Bauer's wife or not. I don't know. She's a female character from 24.
Oh, did I say The Walking Dead? I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant The Last of Us. My bad.
Yeah, no, you definitely said The Walking Dead.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So also, the two things I know her from, she was one of the parents on the Marvel show Runaways, which adapts kind of the I believe it was Brian K. Vaughan, the Brian K. Vaughan comic, which they adapted in live action for about 2 seasons. Again, Runaways is a lot better than you think looking at. It takes a while to get into the groove of in the first season, but yeah, I mean basically after the first episode it gets good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she played one of the mothers that has an affair with the bad guy, and the thing. This is why it was so shocking her passing to me. She played this interesting serial killer character on the show The Rookie, with Nathan Fillion. She played basically our plucky, not so young rookie. He finds himself against kind of pure evil, and the serial killer takes an interest in him, named Rosalind Dyer, and that is her. And she does an excellent job playing it. And she had like a couple, like let's say 2 or 3 appearances,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, she was on it like this. She was on it last year when it was on, and her character kind of reached an end. But again, she looked fine. Nothing at all was wrong with her. Apparently, she kept her battle with cancer secret. She kept it quiet, and it's been going on since 2020. So she's been still.
Yeah, we've been seeing that a lot recently with celebrities. I mean, for good reason, because social media kind of tends to make just craziness out of everything, so I understand. But yeah,
imagine this. Imagine if you went public with that, and everyone's like planning your funeral, and you still got years.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly, right.
It's not a good feeling. All right, so then we have Lisa Marie Presley.
Yeah, I honestly don't have a ton to say about this. No disrespect to her or anything. Of course, I've just never been an Elvis person. I think honestly the most I know her from is the Michael Jackson stuff.
Yeah. But honestly, it's more or less the shock factor of like she was there, during the Golden Globes when Austin Butler won. I forget if he won for the Globes or not, because all these award series all the awards except the Oscars are blending for me right now. But yes,
the Globes are the ones that especially don't matter.
Way to poo-poo the Globes, but sure.
No, they deserve poo-pooing. You should hear Brendan Fraser's thoughts on the Golden Globes.
Dragon. Well, no, that's what I'm saying to you. Wasn't that? Wait, the foreign Hollywood press, that's the Golden Globes?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. No, I know about the Brendan. I keep forgetting because he says the foreign national press. I didn't know I forgot if that was the Golden Globes.
The Hollywood Foreign Press is Golden Globes.
So, yeah. Thank you. Yes, the Hollywood Foreign Press. Okay, so that's But yes, no, that's the thing. So when Austin Butler won because of the whole whether Brendan Fraser had a chance on that one or not, it's unclear.
Was
But
he even nominated?
no, he was nominated. He just very publicly chose not to attend.
Right, right, yeah.
And he made no bones about it. And I don't blame him. Point being, yeah. So when Austin Butler won, she was there, and then like 2 days later, if not, I don't know if it was the night of taping or in like that 2 day span, gone. It was very very shocking. She's buried with her son at Graceland, and Elvis. She's buried with her son and her father at Graceland right now. Yeah, it's trippy. I'm
Yeah, it
glad
is
she got to
crazy to
see.
think about just with all the stuff with the movie this year. Kind of
Yeah.
weird timing.
I mean, I am glad she got to see the movie
Sure, for
about her
sure.
father before she left, and I mean saw debatably the reincarnation of her father.
Dude, Austin Butler still has not lost that accent. I love it.
Everyone's going crazy about the loss of accent, the not losing the accent thing. I mean, I wonder if it is going to go away or not.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Because did you notice the shift in Johnny Depp like post Jack Sparrow?
Yeah, for sure.
he
Okay.
kind of had he kind of talked like a little like this, like I don't know. I'm not doing it right, but anyways.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to more bad news.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So, Justin Roiland from the Spanish sensation Rick and Morty. Justin Roiland, he's apparently he was charged with this, but now it's gone very public and everything. He was charged with domestic abuse, and the details of that have basically are on public record and everything. And the word of mouth being spread, uh, basically has made him basically essentially got him fired from Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites, and I don't know if he had any other stuff in the pipeline. Probably
He had a
is.
video game.
Well, he had a video game company, didn't he? Squanch Games.
Yes.
So the point being, everything going public about Justin Roiland having this domestic abuse thing, which look, we don't know all the details, but unfortunately, in doing this, other bad stuff in Roiland's past has come to light, which is not good at all. So, yeah, Rick and Morty has said
Yeah,
they
as
are
far
going.
as I'm concerned, man, like even if the domestic abuse allegations turn out to be like a Johnny Depp Amber Heard kind of situation,
Yeah,
which
the stuff that's coming.
I mean, I am not like on this dude's side just based on the stuff that's resurfaced, like I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing to me that's really detrimental because you hear about the other domestic thing all the time, in which that one's just like people's that one I could see that one just being something spun out of hand. We
mhm.
don't know, but based on the stuff that's come to light, it is not very flattering on his
The buddy
character.
is the dude is a total creep to say the least. To say the least.
I mean, I think to say the least is that Justin Roiland is known for having a really twisted sense of humor, but from what we've seen, and out of context, but even with context, I don't imagine it being good at any rate. With what what he's been what he's been.
I mean, I got to tell you, Dragon, my dad always watches Rick and well, I was gonna say Rick and Morty. He watches Adult Swim, but that's basically just watching Rick and Morty at this point. And it's a weird feeling still hearing Justin Roiland's voice coming through the TV through his room. I don't know. This is a sticky situation. It really reminds me
For
of
me,
like a Bill Cosby or something. Like not on that scale, but like it's supremely uncomfortable for me.
well, I think the difference is Cosby is kind of like he was going to have the spotlight for a time, so which is really just like looking
Like
back on
obviously
something where.
nobody was like looking at Justin Roiland as like a father figure or anything. I would
Yeah, I mean
hope
that's.
not, at least.
But by the same token,
I'm
though,
sure
it's.
some misguided hot topic youths were, but
Well, I think the point is, like Cosby's more just like kind of he's ingrained in the culture. Where right
uh-huh.
now, Roiland, how big Rick and Morty is, and the fact, the whole the 70 episode thing, the fact Rick and Morty's gonna
Rick
be
and
around for a
Morty
while.
is ingrained in the culture. It's like fucking adult SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the fact that it's a recent version of that versus kind of something that's like been around for ages, which makes again kind of the victim count on Cosby just a little worse.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. For me, it's less bothersome what we have already, but it is going to be it's going to be interesting with Rick and Morty going forward, and the fact they're going to have to find a different voice actor, and it's gonna be a weird feeling, to say the least. And of course, Solar Opposites, which is very much tied into Royal, that one can't go on without him, so that one's completely gone.
I've heard that they're gonna try and do it without him. That's what I've heard.
I could have sworn they said it was canceled.
Did they?
That's what I heard. I mean, I don't know if you've heard something different, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so the Royal thing's pretty terrible. It's not good at all.
I mean, what do you like? Where are you at right now about are you? I mean, I'm definitely at least in the morbidly curious department as far as like seeing what the new version of Rick and Morty looks like. But I got to tell you, man, I'm kind of past the point of wanting to podcast about it. I mean, we'll cross that conversation bridge when we get there. But
that's what I'm saying. I wonder how it's going to. I just wonder how it's going to feel when you have different voices applied to. But also, it's the other fact of he was a drive. Again, it's a two-part combination. It's Dan Harmon and it's Justin Roiland. Obviously, the art style is very Roiland. So there's a lot of the DNA of Rick and Morty from Justin Roiland. Without that, you do have. I think all the Rick stuff is. I think Rick pretty much is Dan Harmon. It's very much Dan Harmon. I think the more, again, I know it's kind of paring things down simply here, but it does feel very much like, okay, Dan Harmon's Rick, Justin Roiland's Morty. And then the rest is kind of offshoots of this coming from that and that coming from this. Pretty much the Smith family, I'd imagine. Probably mostly Roiland. I don't know. But someone like Beth perhaps more Harmon. I don't know.
Dude, Jerry is just looking better and better. Seriously.
Okay.
Jerry ain't got no stigma attached to him now.
Okay, anyway.
His stock has just gone up.
All right, so my point is it's going to feel weird for sure. I think my assumption was they're probably going to get someone like James Arnold Taylor to voice Morty, and they'll probably just have Dan Harmon do the voice of Rick because he is kind of like the number two. Like
I would be surprised if they didn't get Harmon to do Rick. I would be surprised. Yeah,
they've always joked that Harmon does a great Rick, and they'll if anything happens to Roiland, they'll put him in there. Well, now someone's having Roiland, so I guess we'll just put him in there. Just a question of all the other Roiland voice characters like Mr. Poopy Butthole, but it's yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. We go from very questionable behavior to a very questionable decision.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why is this a thing?
This is a last-minute thing for January.
It is, yeah. I honestly, Dragon, you just put it on the list. I haven't even looked into it, so by all means, tell the folks about it and me about it.
I mean, we're pretty much in the headline space on this, Tiki. It's just that Showtime has announced they've announced officially we are not pursuing a season 2 of Dexter New Blood, but what we are doing is we're in development on a Young Dexter prequel show.
Like, wasn't that like the whole point of the flashbacks? Like, what are we going to get out of this?
Yeah, you're not wrong at all on that, Tegan. That's my question here. Of like, what's the point? If we're going to do a Young Dexter,
at this point, just reboot it. Honestly, at this point, just reboot it and like make it follow more closely to the books or something like that.
The thing with Dexter is it's kind of like this. So with Dexter, it feels like we're kind of doing a next gen version of Dexter with something like You, which I know is probably close to an end at this. Like the 4th season that was about to premiere this month and everything. But that's what I'm saying. They're kind of doing like a next.
I'm still too uncomfortable to watch that show.
I still say give the 1st season a watch. But, Anyway, but yeah, it's the fact that we're already it feels like I don't know if we're going to recapture lightning in a bottle with Dexter. I mean, with Dexter, it's just the fact that you did have that lull after season 4, but then we kind of bought some points back with New Blood. Not all the points, depending on who you ask, but still, we brought back a lot of stock given where we ended things on Dexter. I think that was the best case scenario with that. Like, okay, we undid a big mistake from Dexter. At least we kind of took a far better step.
The best case scenario would have been Dexter v Batista in the end, Dragon. That would have been the best case scenario.
Well, I'm saying compared to where we did leave things off.
Sure, but still, we were that close. Batista.
Anyway.
Sorry, I'm just like, Batista was literally on his way to Alaska, Dragon. He was on his way.
All right.
Sorry.
So, the fact of the matter is, it's just a question of, we did have those flashbacks all throughout Dexter season 1. I think maybe up to 2 with the very least season 1.
Yeah. I really don't get what you're... unless it's like a standalone thing and they have a really creative villain and really good casting,
But even so, Dexter is Michael C. Hall, and if we're not going to bring Michael C. Hall in for that, I mean, well, we already told all the young Dexter stuff we
What
already kind
about
of
the
needed.
I feel dumb because I'm blanking on the actor who plays the dad.
James Remar?
Yeah, what about him?
Well, what about him?
Is he like?
Well, they haven't said anything. All we have is a headline here. We don't know what they're doing for this
So
thing.
I'm saying, I imagine he would probably be like the main selling point for this.
I mean, he'd have to be, but it's going to be also it's going to be pushing the thing. We kind of do this thing with Hopkins all the times when we did all the Hannibal Lecter stuff like with Red Dragon. But James Remar's getting up there, and it's going to be kind of hard to do young Dexter with
Right.
old
No,
Harry.
that's definitely a factor too. Yeah, for
I mean, you
sure.
can get away with it during the original Dexter because that was your introduction to that
Uh-huh.
character, and it was still like it was years ago, and James basically colored the hair differently, and it's the same guy, But I don't know. It's it's getting it just feels like a really wrong headed decision, and
Maybe God, no. I
ultimately I feel like with New Blood we said all we really need to say with Dexter, and it feels like at this point if you want to do a serial killer show we gotta do a new one entirely in the spirit of Dexter, which we kind of done with you, but you faltered after that first season, so if you wanted, it's still kind of odd that we're really continuingly kind of obsessed with serial killer kind of centered material when you think about it. Like I don't
hard
know.
agree.
Yeah,
I wonder if this was literally just like, hey, that Dahmer show did well. What serial killers do we have on our
I mean
plate?
that kind of feel. I mean it kind of feels like that was the decision making process. Well, it's like hey, there was a young serial killer. Let's do another young one.
God, yeah, I am not interested in this. Really, I'm just not. I'm vaguely curious about like if they have a villain and who they cast as a villain, just because Dexter villain casting is always on point. But besides that,
Unless Mark Hamill's cast, I'm not. I don't know if I'm coming back for it.
okay, but if Mark Hamill was a villain, you'd be all the fuck over that.
What?
You know if Mark Hamill was a villain, you'd be all the fuck over that though.
Yep.
All right. Oh God.
So more good news.
Uh
So
this is kind of where we're getting into like good news with like a one really, really, really bad thing.
it's kind of good news, bad news. So good news, hey, we're getting another Tron movie because people like Tron Legacy and people love the original.
You
Tron.
know what? When I heard the news, I literally sent Jacob Gulliver. I was like, "Good idea, Disney rebooting Tron. Bad idea, Disney casting Jared Leto."
Yeah, Jared Leto is
Leto, like, he's already gonna stink up the most iconic Haunted Mansion character. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, Leto is clearly. I don't know. I don't want to go off on a rant here. I feel like for me, Leto is one of those guys where it's like I try not to let personal like headline stuff get in the way of my enjoyment of an actor, but Leto is just a creepy individual, man.
Remind me, when Leto was announced as the Joker, weren't you excited for that?
I was, but that was before the actual stuff that he did.
Right. Just making
and
sure.
Also before I found out that he has a literal cult.
Well, I mean, how literal?
Well, very literal. Where I will remind you, there is contests during. He literally has this festival that's all about his band, and there's. I could get into it, but
the fact is, Jared Leto just
he's a creepy individual, man.
I was going to say overhyped, but sure. But yeah, he's. Fact is, Jared Leto is kind of putting the damper on, like, hey, we're doing Tron, like who we love, Jeff Bridges, we're not bringing back likely Jeff Bridges. I don't know. So yeah, Jared Leto being cast is kind of putting the damper on more Tron, but who knows? Tron Ares, we'll see what happens.
I mean, I am excited for more Tron. Don't get me wrong, and in spite of him being in Haunted Mansion, and in spite of it not being Del Toro, I still am excited for that. If anything else, just because I really hope they don't mess it up. But all right, so we go from bad news to weird news.
Well, no, I think we're kind of
weird news.
Yeah, we're slowly but surely shifting into the good news category, folks.
Okay, so this kid's name is Jafar, right?
Yeah.
I think that's delightful. So Jafar Jackson, Michael Jackson's nephew, is going to play him in the biopic.
Yeah, so I think the bigger announcement here is, hey, we're doing a Michael Jackson biopic. I think they could have led with that, but yeah, so we're doing a.
I'm pretty sure it was already announced.
Really, it was?
I'm pretty sure. I just think it was one of those things like, where they announced they were working on it, didn't really give any details or casting or anything like that.
Okay. Well, yeah, so yeah, they're doing a Michael Jackson biopic, and they're getting one of his family members to play him. Which, I mean, I've seen that done before. Like Ice Cube's son, I believe, plays.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I believe that's what happened with Compton.
I feel like this is probably like one of the biggest instances of them doing it. Like certainly,
Gandolfini, Michael Gandolfini.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was he.
You know what? Can we please just do more of this and less of like the weird, creepy, uncanny valley, like digital restoration thing? And also another good one that I can think of is the Cooper Hoffman, because I was a big time Philip Seymour Hoffman fan and heartbroken when that man died, and I really hope Cooper Hoffman gets more roles. Anyways, yeah, they are doing a Michael Jackson biopic.
It's interesting that they're doing it. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just pointing out. Go ahead.
It's interesting that they're doing this now because Michael Jackson's an interesting topic these days because he keeps flip-flopping back and forth between, again, beloved pop icon to controversial figure, beloved icon, controversial figure. Like, I guess
he's both. Isn't it fair to say that at this point he's just both?
Well, no, I agree. He is both. I'm just saying at certain times it's like, a while back we had like the scathing documentary put out there. It's like people, drudging up the old stuff that we already went through, which again, I don't know. It's kind of. I'm asking. I mean, I'm happy we're going to see it. Period. I'm just happy we're going to see Michael Jackson biopic. It'll be interesting to see. But I just wonder where we're going to go direction wise. And are we going to You have to imagine at this point all the biopics. They think they've learned that we're not going to do the cradle to grave story, right?
I would definitely hope so, Dragon. I think honestly, I think 90s Michael Jackson is the era that you want to do.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Basically after the Thriller era, but before the big hard downfall.
Well, wait a minute. Was that so? 80s Michael Jackson is essentially that's
80s Michael Jackson is king of pop.
That's what I'm saying. So 80s Michael Jackson is king of pop, and getting to the 90s. So is this before or after the pigmentation thing happens?
I'm saying it's kind of during. Like the 90s is all the weird stuff. Like that's when the balcony incident happens. Yeah, that's where Bubbles comes into play.
So basically that's the period you want to see depicted. Then.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But God, Dragon. I know that I know the director's probably already been announced, but this seems like it'd be right up Craig Gillespie's avenue.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know he's not doing it, but man, I wish he was.
I think that's the thing. If they do that era, though, which it feels like, I don't know, if they do that era, they have to address the trial. You can't have that because that was the iconography when he changed his look.
I'm not saying they shouldn't address it.
Okay, so you're saying we should definitely do kind of like the
I'm saying it'd be impossible to do a Michael Jackson movie and not have that involved in some way.
I wonder how the family feels about that, though, because given the family is literally playing the character.
Yeah, that's I don't know.
See, that's what's interesting.
Because clearly they are involved.
That's the thing. So that's what's really interesting about it, is the fact that we have Jafar Jackson, who's going to be depicting possibly a very tumultuous time in Michael Jackson's life, and they're going to, I don't know, they're going to have to, so I don't know if they're going to circumvent that because it's kind of impossible not to. To me, my instinct is if they get Jafar Jackson, and mind, I'm looking at him without makeup or anything applied to him, so it's just my assumption that we're doing like 80s Michael Jackson for a movie, but I don't know. We might not. We might do like the 80s and 90s period, which isn't that is a great story to tell. It's a gutsy story if you're blood with the guy, it's a little.
I think the thing that I don't want this movie to be is basically what I heard that the Whitney Houston biopic is. It's just like, basically it's like more of a kind of like celebration of the person's life without getting into any of the actual hardship that made their life interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That doesn't bridge on the.
Who's the director? That's a good question, Koski. Let me. I'll look that up.
Because I don't necessarily
But
want to see a Michael Jackson movie that's not going to at least address that the guy was out there. He was an oddball. He did have like the hyperbolic chamber
I mean,
thing
that's
that he
why
had,
you make a Michael Jackson
right?
movie, right?
I know that's
Yeah.
the thing. I mean, do you think it's a mistake
Like,
he
if you're
doesn't
not
have
going to do that, then you might as well just release like a documentary,
right?
honestly.
Exactly. Yes.
So, okay, go ahead to the next piece of news, but I'm going to Google this.
All right. So, another biopic news: Rami Malek, our boy
A
Rami.
boy, a boy.
Rami Malek has shaved off the mustache, and he is playing Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton biopic that is produced by Matt Reeves.
Yeah, I think this is a good call just because I think Rami Malek has just one of those really super expressive faces that would work really well in the silent film era. I honestly don't know all that much about Buster Keaton. I'm a little bit like, I know that he's known for like really over the top physical pratfall stuff, right?
Well, if I recall, the most famous like Buster Keaton like silent film things, like he's the guy who like when the house falls, like he's like he aimed himself right under the one window so like it falls and he's okay.
Uh-huh.
Like that's the kind of Buster Keaton was like kind of the big like at the time he was like the big practical comedy course. Like he's like fighting on the train and stuff like that kind of stuff.
Okay, got it. Right.
So like that was Buster Keaton was really the big set piece kind of guy. But yeah, he was again he basically without Buster Keaton, it was like doing cartoons and live action on film. That was essentially what the silent film era was for him. It feels like.
All right,
Yeah.
really quick, we have I have Antoine Fuqua as the director, which
Oh yeah, he's good. He's really good.
It's an interesting choice for sure. Not really necessarily like very biopic heavy with his stuff, but he definitely he's definitely well versed in Black culture at the very least.
Oh yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest now. Again, Tiki and I, as we've said many
What the
times,
fuck? He directed the Ghost of Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I thought that was a documentary. I thought it was Witch Mountain. Go ahead.
anyway, yeah. So it's sorry, I'm remembering my train of thought here. God, I lost it. Great. All right.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jackson. Well, yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were on to another thing.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay, I got it. Anton Fuqua. Here's the thing. Again, as Tiki and I have said on many occasions, and we're probably going to say a number of times when we do Black History Heroes this month, we're whiter than David Hyde Pierce does, skiing.
Wait, is that literally what you were trying to search your mind for?
No, I'm trying the point
Okay.
that's gonna come after, the point that was going to come after that, Tiki.
Sorry.
So here's the thing. We don't really have, I don't know if we have much right to kind of suggest this for the movie's plot, but something I think be really interesting with a director like that on this project would be, to see how a guy reacts to the pigmentation thing.
Sure.
If you're a black icon and that happens to you, and I wonder if there might be a correlation that might be explored in the film.
Again, I just with the family, it's just weird.
Yep.
That's the weird middle ground.
It is. So it's a question of how far we're gonna go with these sort of things, especially when we get into all the controversy and like baby dangling and monkeys and stuff, bad stuff potentially. Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
All right. Okay. But yes, Rami Malek. Honestly, I do love seeing Malek in a period setting, looking like Amsterdam, for example. Like, I really love the idea.
I think he just, like I said, he just has a look that like he fits into period settings really well. I think.
Yeah. Okay, so now Koski brings up Elvis here. He says, "Okay, I got it. A Michael Jackson movie with a soundtrack full of Elvis songs would be a good bit." So. That brings us to our next piece.
That genuinely sounds like something that Baz Luhrmann would do.
No, for sure. All right, so Agent Elvis. Let's talk about Agent Elvis.
Yeah, Dragon. I don't know. This is just like sounds like silly fun to me. I don't know if it's newsworthy per se, but
So on Netflix, they're doing an adult animated show that's going to be animated by Sony, I believe. It has an interesting art style from the looks of it. It's kind of really something not impressionistic, but it looks kind of like a painting come to life sort of style. Priscilla Presley, believe it or not, she co-created this. Like she's like the co-showrunner on this, so
Oh, that's
she's involved.
crazy.
She is involved in this, and the premise, I love the premise, and I'm so sold on this show, man. It's basically what if Elvis actually became a secret agent, like during the whole Nixon badge affair.
It is a good premise. It is definitely a good
It's a
premise.
great idea. Now they have not said who is voicing Elvis yet. Now I'm begging for one or two things to happen. Given that he's having trouble shaking it, let's get Austin Butler in it, man. Let's have him. Plus, they had to cut all that from the movie anyway.
Dragon, if he voices Elvis in an animated show, forget about it. He's never going to have any other voice ever again.
I know, right? But still, so that's the thing. Austin Butler, when they did the Elvis movie, they had to cut out the Nixon scene, so this would be a way of making up for that.
Oh God!
Now the other one would be Jeff Bennett. Let's give Jeff Bennett another bite at the apple, doing like the animated Elvis show, but kind of in a more kind of more adult kind of setting.
Koski, that's actually a really. I didn't even think about the fact that Nolan's never done a biopic. That's a good point.
Well, he's about to do a biopic.
Yeah, no, that's just like that's weird. That I feel like people aren't even really bringing that up when it comes to Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Anyways,
all right. Okay, and then that brings us to some other really good news. We have other Netflix related news.
yeah. So Dragon, you and I we've kind of become like in the business of like. This is like the third or fourth time it's happened where it's like, hey, did you hear that the show that we really like and have been following for years is getting canceled? Awesome.
Look, an ending, not canceled.
Right. Because
Netflix would have beat this dead horse for years.
You know they would have, and I am fully expecting them to probably do like a spin-off or something.
Well, no, they're doing that movie, remember?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I assume this is probably an intentional timed out thing where okay, we're gonna end the show and then we'll do the movie, which will probably continue where we left things off, but in a new, like kind of fresh, disconnected setting or something. I don't know. Anyway, so
Cobra season 6 or 7.
Let's think. So this is Cobra Kai's ending at season 6.
6 seasons of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's
I've never even watched an episode of Community.
Yeah, you really should. I have not, but I hear good things.
The one episode I watched was the Abed holiday special.
I know we both watched it. Yes. So yeah, this is good news that it's ending because we have plot line. The problem with Cobra Kai is that it kind of drift. Season 4 was really spinning its wheels in terms of like, I mean, this is okay.
We're like one of the few people who didn't really care for season 4, but yeah, for us it was kind of spinning its wheels.
Yeah, and again, it was okay, but only okay if if we were building to an ending and not just like killing time for a season, which ultimately, given this news, seems to be the case. Seems like we have an actual ending to our story here, and season 5 did have a few hanging chads that we did need to kind of nip.
I think season 5 was a really good redemption season for the show. I thought. I thought Silver is almost kind of like a Gus Fring kind of villain where it's like he needed more than one season to really come into his own.
For sure, yeah. Like 4 was the introduction, 5's where he flourished.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's the thing. So we in season 5 we cover a lot of ground, but we had a few things that we do need to kind of like see happen for our story here. So I mean, the baby still needs to be born. We have John Kreese. He's out. Cobra Kai is still a franchise, and we have the big international tournament is
yeah.
So that's the thing, and also the big thing, we still have not given this new fusion dojo a name yet. We got to give them a freaking name. And last but not least, Hilary Swank.
Also, Chosen's got to get with that one girl.
Yeah. Chosen's got a Karate Kid movie. Yeah. But I'm saying we have stuff to get done, man. It's exciting. Now it's a question of are we gonna solve all the things in our last season? Are we was there a plan all along? Because again, with the baby being born, we closed the loop on Johnny's story. It was like the one thing we didn't explore with that guy. So yeah, this is all very exciting, and it feels like we've had a plan. There's not a better feeling in the world than it all makes sense now.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Koski says, "Oh God, poor Netflix. 2 of their flagship
Yeah.
shows are ending."
And probably in the same year, honestly. I don't think Cobra Kai is coming out this year, so it's probably going to be next year with Stranger Things. They're probably going to offset the two if they break up Stranger Things in the two halves.
You know what the really sad thing about all this is?
What?
They're just going to be holding on to fucking Big Mouth for dear life.
God.
And I actually liked Big Mouth in the first couple seasons, but man, they've run that show into the ground.
Yep.
Anyways.
All right. So, and also, of course, they're doing a new Karate Kid movie, so presumably maybe this is the plan all along. We end at 6 and we go into that. So we'll see where that goes. All right. Last bit of news, very fresh news, by the way. Tiki, do you smell the freshness on this news?
It's piping hot.
Yeah. So Hulu is officially doing. We already kind of knew about this a little bit. They confirmed, like, oh yeah, everyone's coming back. They're doing the King of the Hill revival is coming to Hulu, which is where King of the Hill currently, streams. So it makes sense. And they're bringing back all the five of the voice actors and Greg Daniels and Mike Judge. They're all coming back.
Yeah, I feel like this was almost inevitable, but I'm excited for it. Cautiously optimistic. I really hope that, like, did they say it was going to be modern day? Because I feel like if it's not, that's a big missed opportunity.
I don't know, but you'd have to imagine Bobby would have to be the same age if Pam Olden's coming back to do the voice.
Oh, that's true. Shit.
But then again, I don't know. It might just play by cartoon rules in that where, it's the modern age, but just Bobby is still the same.
Oh, that'd be funny. It's just like 2020, but Bobby's the same age.
That's the question. how far we're going to advance things. I mean, maybe Bobby's...
Because honestly, Dragon, you know me, it's like I'm usually like, damn it. This is actually like a sticky situation because the thing is I'm usually the person who wants the flash forwards with stuff, but I actually don't want to flash forward here because I feel like Hank Hill 20 years later would be like, it wouldn't be the same Hank Hill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, God, if they could just do like a stupid Beavis and Butthead style plot where they somehow get time warped into the 2020s.
I mean, remember Hank Hill, he was having trouble with MySpace back in King of the Hill.
That's what I'm saying, Dragon.
I mean, right now, imagine when the advent of like Twitter and stuff, especially now.
I mean, what if they said it in like 2012, like 10 years ago?
Let's see. How do you remember what year King of the Hill ended?
I want to say right around that point, honestly.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I could see it maybe a few years, but not like 2022.
Right, yeah.
Or I guess technically 2023. But anyway, yeah. Okay.
Cautiously optimistic. Of course, you do have the Brittany Murphy factor. That
is obviously everyone come back. It's one person who could not come back. They're gonna have to recast her if they do that at all. So. Yeah.
Honestly, if I were them, I'd just write Luann out.
I think that'd be
because I think the character, like as far as I know, Dragon. Because remind me at the end of the show, she pretty much just got married to Lucky, right?
Yeah, So
it's like you don't necessarily have to have Luann there.
Yeah,
like even from a story point of view.
I mean, I gotta be honest. For simplicity's sake, I just can't wait to see more Hank Hill because I love the way Mike Judge plays that character. I just love
Dragon. That's the thing. It's like I feel like Hank Hill, just as a cartoon character, could just be put into any situation and it would be funny.
That man adores it. He puts it on a golden pedestal.
Can you imagine Hank Hill playing Fortnite?
Yes, we've seen Hank Hill.
Yeah, we've kind of seen it a little bit.
We saw Hank Hill become addicted to video games. It was really funny though.
God, what if Hank Hill 20 years later is literally just a streamer?
Oh God,
he's given up all his dreams of propane.
No, Tiki. He's revolutionized his dreams.
Or what if all his sponsorships come from the propane industry?
No. He streams on like how-to videos with propane.
Oh my God! All right. This is getting out of hand.
Anyway. And then we have.
Oh God, Dragon! Hold on. One other thing. What if Dale is like a Fox News style, like right-wing conspiracy theorist?
No, that would be hysterical. Or no, Dale's like the Alex Jones of.
You know, it would be actually really nice.
Yeah.
If Bill was on the upswing.
That would actually be really nice. That'd be
Yeah.
going to change the pace. We can't make Bill as creepy as he once
I
was.
think like Bill, he hit the lowest of the low. You know what would be actually really interesting is if Boomhauer was the depressed one.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it'd be like Dazed and Confused for Boomhauer.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Okay, all right. We could literally just do a whole podcast speculating about this.
Tiki, nerds, the movie Memoirs. Let's just talk about. Let's turn this into the King of the Hill speculation hour. Let's do it.
Oh God. Anyways,
Let's just do it. Let's talk about Buck Strickland, man. No.
I would gladly talk about Buck Strickland, Dragon, and you know it.
Yeah, Buck Strickland gets canceled. That's the. There's your story for you.
All right.
Okay. Oh, Koski has a question here. Random question. When is that Avatar animated movie coming? I believe I brought this up in December when I think they announced it. 2025. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of Avatar movies coming. I think you're talking about the one where actually Team Avatar is coming back, which I think was announced for 2025. I think. Yeah.
All right. So let's burn through a couple trailers really quick. Shazam, Dragon. I honestly didn't even watch the trailer again, just because, like I said, I feel like this trailer in particular, man, it really just blows through the whole plot.
Yeah, it's but to be fair, not a lot of plot to be had on this one. It's just pretty much Shazam and the family fighting essentially gods.
I am just getting a very bad feeling about this movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm going into it not expecting it to be better than the first movie, but I am expecting
the first movie. I kind of feel was like lightning in a bottle almost.
I mean, honestly, with Shazam, it just feels like the big missed opportunity is like him fighting Black Adam, which we're not doing.
Right. Any sort of Justice League crossover, anyways, because he's basically a fanboy.
Plus, Mr. Mind was kind of the setup villain from the last one. We're not doing that either. It looks like.
Yeah, and it's also in that kind of like awkward place where he's not really going to be a part of the James Gunn universe.
Well, I mean, that might be yet to be seen because Shazam could blend into that because he is like distant from being super connected to the DCEU. So there's a chance of
true
being able to show up, but you're right, it's unclear. Yeah, it's honestly the movie for me. I think that movie's just gonna be ultimate. It's like, hey, you like seeing the old Shazam gang come back and just like especially Zach Levi being fun in the role, but. Unfortunately, there's a timetable applied to Shazam, and I think that we're taking too much time to make these Shazam movies because, the kid's going to grow up, and it's going to be old man to Shazam. He's going to be the same. He basically looks somewhat more attractive, I guess. He looks black hair and a costume. That's really what happens when the lightning comes down. Not really kid turning into full grown man. At some point, that's going to happen. Not for this movie, but still, just It just feels like when they made the first Shazam movie again, they made that movie not knowing they were going to make more. It's just okay, we're gonna pull the big ace up our sleeves. The whole family turns into Shazams.
Right. And I feel like that was a legitimately really good pop in the theater.
Yeah, it's great.
But I just don't necessarily think it's going to maintain itself for a full movie.
Because that's your second movie story right there. There's your big draw. Like, the whole family's now Shazams, but we can't tell that story right now.
Right.
So it's gonna honestly, the villains are really they're the ones I'm worried about because the villains seem super generic.
Same.
And we have good actresses, but it feels like I don't know. Just putting Helen Mirren in a big goofy costume is gonna do it.
I feel like the whole card of like Helen Mirren playing the bad guy is honestly almost becoming a cliche at this point.
Get her to play Madam Web, darn it! Like, don't forget.
That'd be good. That's casting. That's solid casting right there.
That's the only way you get anyone to see that Madam Web movie they're doing. If you got Helen Mirren instead of like Dakota Johnson, who is far younger than Madam Web ever has been historically ever.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Imagine Madam Web versus the Watcher. Now there's a movie for you. Anyway.
Okay, and finally, a movie from my boy. Dragon, legitimately, Ari Aster might be the modern filmmaker that I am the most excited about.
Really? Like, of all of them?
Of all of them, yes. I think that Hereditary and Midsommar are both flat-out masterpieces, just iconic. I genuinely think Midsommar just gets better and better and better. Like, it's honestly up there with stuff like Parasite and The Lighthouse for me for like the best of 2022 or 2019. So I am stoked about this movie. And I am stoked to see Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, we should tell them what the movie is, Tiki.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. It's Beau is Afraid.
There you go. Okay, it's done with Joaquin Phoenix.
And I don't know. I am cautiously optimistic about him getting out of the horror genre.
Yeah, it's more thriller, so it's not a huge step, but it's in the right direction though. You know, he's stepping out of it slowly but surely. But yeah, it's.
I mean, then again, like Midsommar, it's not like Midsommar is really, like that movie is a horror movie, but it's not. I don't know. His movies are kind of all over the place. Koski, I have a question for you, my friend. Have you seen The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, his short film? Because I watched that like a week ago and it messed me up, man. Like, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons is probably even more disturbing than Hereditary somehow. Anyways, so what are your feelings about this movie, Dragon? Because it actually reached your radar too.
I mean, I'll tell you, the A24 and I have a very tumultuous relationship. Occasionally, you get a movie like The Whale, or like The Disaster Artist. But
ironically, two of the A24 movies that I'm not. The Whale, I have thoughts on The Whale. I didn't dislike it, but I don't think I liked it as much as you did.
But point being, the other ones that you really like, I do not care for.
Exactly. Right. Like Tusk for me is probably more low tier.
Okay, well, Tusk is. I keep forgetting Tusk is one I do like.
Tusk genuinely does not feel like an A24 movie,
and that's pretty much why. Yeah, but this though, I gotta be honest. This I like the vision. I like the direction on this. I like how the direction looks. I mean, I'll admit in the trailer. I mean, this whole psychedelic kind of hallucinatory thing. I mean, it looks well visualized. I'm not sure if knowing A24, I don't know if it's gonna make a lick of sense in the end, but it looks good. I really like the thing that really made me kind of perk up in my seat watching. It was like Nathan Lane, and with a mustache, even better.
Right.
But yeah, no, seriously, it's the idea that it seems like Joaquin Phoenix can be held prisoner by a crazy couple, and he's going to be hallucinating. Probably they're going to be feeding him pills or some such, or I don't know what. But he's going to be hallucinating. I mean, the
hallucination thing is definitely in line with Ari Aster for Hereditary, because that movie is very psychedelic. So
yeah, so this
kind of got a Gerald's Game vibe a little bit.
I mean, the movie looks interesting to me. It's not something I'd see in theaters, but I mean, I've kind of sworn off A24 with the very few exceptions, but I don't know. This streamed, I may brave it. I don't know.
You should see Marcel. That's A24.
Wait, Marcel the Shell with She Cell?
the shell with shoes on. Yes, that is A24.
Yeah, I am going to look into that once it streams, but yeah.
All right. Anyways. Okay, so yeah, let's get to the main event. January 2023.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dragon, let's talk Mithrigan.
Okay, in seriousness though,
let's talk Mithrigan, Dragon. You want to hear my thoughts on Mithrigan?
Yours isn't even 3, because look, you're missing that line. That's M line gan.
You know what? That is funny. You're right about that. It's not even a 3.
That's M Pong Gang.
Oh God.
That's a game of Pong. No going on.
All right, so Mithrigan, I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm sorry if I slip. It's just because literally everyone's calling it that. It's a fan four stick kind of situation. So.
Well, I mean, fan four stick at least has like the Fantastic Four in the name. This is just like Mithrigan. This is
all right. So nothing. Megan, Dragon, Megan. It's pretty good. Like it's fun. It's Dragon. I actually think you would be able to watch this no problem at all. No problem at all.
I am terrified of Chucky though, so I don't.
It's PG-13. There's no real violence. I mean, there's violence in it, but it's very muted PG-13 violence. It's way more funny than scary, honestly. Right. But yeah, I like honestly, this movie's just kind of like a fun ride. I think it's way better than the Child's Play remake that we got. Unfortunately, like I still hate that Mark Hamill was actually one of the weaker elements of that movie.
Poor Hamill.
It's just because like they shouldn't have even cast him to begin with. They had the original guy right there wanting to do it. But But yeah, I think this movie, like, it has more going for it than the usual, like, first horror movie of the year dumped into that, January, like, first weekend in January slot. It's okay. I certainly don't think it's going to be like in the top 10 of the year or anything like that. I actually think as the year goes on, people are going to forget about it fairly quickly because it's not like it's a great movie or anything. I honestly think people are kind of overhyping it a little, but I had a fun time with it. It's a fun little disposable sci-fi movie. It's got a few interesting ideas about, you know, uh, kind of evolving technology and stuff like that. I had a good
So
time.
earlier in our little show here, Koski said Megan was fun.
Indeed, that's honestly the word I would use to describe it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me tell you about you people.
Yeah, I was on the bus, Dragon, today, and I had some spare time, so I watched the first like half hour of this. I'm gonna get around to watching the rest of it, but go ahead.
Yeah, so this movie's so You People is by it was a movie on Netflix. It was by Kenya Barris, I believe his name is, or yeah, I think it's Kenya Barris. So this is the guy who does Blackish, and
Mhm.
basically the best way to describe this movie, it's kind of an update on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. That's kind of what it is. It's not a one for one remake or anything, but just in terms of like essentially Jonah Hill. It's a love story. Jonah Hill falls in love
It's
with
not like Guess Who, where that's like
no.
explicitly what they're trying to
See, that
do.
one
Yeah.
literally, the Guess Who was literally a remake of Guess Who's
Uh
Coming to
huh.
Dinner. This is just like in the spirit of just Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in terms of like the parents do meet each other like that movie,
And
and
honestly, like just based on the first half hour that I saw, like basically the last scene I saw was the first scene with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy together, like the scene where he invites them to the lunch.
oh yeah, yeah.
So just based on that alone, Dragon, I get the sense that the movie just structurally is not really like Guess Who's Coming to
Yeah,
Dinner.
that's what I'm saying. Basically, like it's only like it's really only like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in terms of the
It's more
questions
like
of
Meet the Parents, actually. Now that
that
I think
it's
about
kind of
it.
a combination of the two. If I'm being frank,
Uh huh. Uh
it's kind
huh.
of like it has the I think it
It's
has
kind
the
of like
right.
Meet the Parents if Meet the Parents had racial tension.
Exactly. So it's kind of has like take the racial conversation that is in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner about the whole like the worries
Uh-huh.
and woes of the interracial couple put into a comedic, kind of like Meet the Parents situation.
Right, right.
It's pretty much what it is. So, Jonah Hill, he's fallen in love with this, Eddie Murphy's daughter in the movie. He is a Jewish podcaster who he talks about kind of like modern day issues and stuff, which many times involves race. He has a black co-host.
I
So,
gotta tell you, man, in the little time I watched this movie, I really, really liked the dynamic he had with his co-host.
right? It was good. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of good stuff in this movie in terms of
Yeah, yeah.
I see. I'm usually
I'm
on the fence.
definitely gonna finish this one for sure.
Many times I'm on the fence with Jonah Hill, but I really liked him in this. I thought he was really good in this. I'm not crazy about how he looks in the movie, but I liked him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole movie, it's culture class of with the parent, honestly, with the parents mostly. You have Eddie Murphy, who's great in this. I love Eddie Murphy because he's not Eddie Murphy these days. Between this and Dolomite Is My Name, he's playing comedy in different ways. Everyone knows Eddie Murphy being kind of like the loud, really funny guy, the
Uh-huh,
donkey from
uh-huh.
Shrek and everything, all that, and obviously, the Trading Places and et cetera, et cetera. We kind of know him one way, but Eddie Murphy, aside from we've seen him do really good drama, but also Eddie Murphy playing not silent comedy, playing kind of a more subtle comedy, he's playing it quiet, he's playing kind of
He's
he's
almost
kind
a
of
little stoic in this from the one scene I
that's
saw.
yeah, I guess that's the better way to put it. He's kind of playing it kind of more stoic and subtle, I guess, and
Uh-huh.
I like what he's doing there. I really like how Eddie Murphy plays this character, and yeah, so I also I really, it's an important thing they got right in this movie. I feel I really dig the relationship that they set up in that first half hour, Tiki, with him and Lauren London's character Amira. I think they have really good chemistry. I buy that relationship, so I'm rooting for them as you should in the movie. And of course, you have great casting on all the parents. By the way, all the parents. They have Julia Louis Dreyfus and David Duchovny as his parents, and Neil Long and Eddie Murphy as her parents. These are like master class in the actors for what you can cast for these parents. So again, I guess reserved is actually, now I think I found the word. Reserved and subtle Eddie Murphy is really good. Him just being intimidating and being kind of tense. Again, I will say this though. The issue I have with the movie is that I think the comedy is more cringe than Curb Your Enthusiasm esque, because I was kind of hoping.
Uh,
Like there is one
the
of the big
Julia Louis Dreyfus stuff, from what I've seen, is pretty bad.
yeah. So let me put it this way to you: in this movie, there's a scene. The big scene, one of the big scenes of the movie, is they kind of bring up one of the most taboo conversations you can have
Ooh.
between like a black family and a Jewish family.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of the old, and it feels really cringy the way it plays out. Because initially I was thinking this would go the Curb Your Enthusiasm way, which I was really looking forward to, and it just kind of turns more cringe than Curb.
Right,
You
right.
have it's kind of the old adage of like, who had it? Was slavery worse than the Holocaust?
Oh God.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe you'll like that scene more than I. I don't know. I mean, because in theory, I think that's a hilarious setup for a conversation, but it's a tough scene to
Oh, Larry
circumnavigate.
David would absolutely own that
That's what
conversation.
I'm saying. That premise in the right hands
So at
can
least if
work.
you're a slave, you get a hot meal.
Yeah. Like he would break down the whole the terms of slavery. It's just, slave like literally we're pulling around slabs, chains, slabs, whippings, other whipping. It's all bad. I think anyway. So, there's a real, as is usual, there's going to be a forced low of lows. We haven't quite gotten that, but there are subversions, Steve. There's one subversion in the movie I think you're going to find utterly delightful. There's
Oh yeah.
one, what Eddie Murphy's just, I'm not going to say what it is. Eddie Murphy's basically waiting for this kid to disappoint him, and it goes a different way.
Cool, cool.
So yeah, it's so I'm a little mixed on the comedy, but it's kind of I think they could have mixed the comedy and the relevancy aspects of the movie a little better, because they're both well represented, but not really mixing well. They're not really like kind of melding together as well. And again, I get the movie's kind of about culture clash, so I guess that's on brand. So I didn't love this movie, but I did like a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. I hear that.
All right.
Okay, so Koski's saying Megan was fun. I would buy it on DVD and forget about it for 3 years and then see it and go like, oh yeah, right, that movie. I'll watch it. That's about right. Koski sounds about right. Eddie Murphy will never top his performance in Meet Dave.
God.
The movie that makes me not want to see the movie Dave.
See, now I have to be mad at the movie Meet Dave because of that. I can't tell you how many holidays I keep proposing. Let's talk about Dave.
Oh, God.
They sing the Eddie Murphy movie, like, no, not Meet Dave, the good Dave.
Koski says, man, they could do a great crossover fit with the movie Women Talking to You People. God. All right. So Missing. So yeah, this is it's in the same universe as Searching. Like they reference the case that happened in Searching, but none of the characters cross over. It's a new cast. And Dragon, I honestly, I'm just going to cut to the chase with this. I didn't like it nearly as much as I like Searching. And, it's not bad. I do think that it genuinely had me for the first, I would say maybe 75% of it. Like, I definitely was, it's one of the first half of the movie is really good at kind of like laying out, like giving you just enough information, giving you breadcrumbs. And I think the element of the movie with the computer stuff is done just as well as it's done in Searching, as far as the, how they actually film it and everything. Dragon, the ending of this movie is a fucking hot mess. It is a piping hot mess.
Really?
And I keep seeing posts on social media like, you will never believe the ending. And I'm like, yeah, that's because it stretches all sense of logic, and it really just Dragon. It's a big disappointment, just because I felt like the movie was going in some interesting directions, and then basically in the last 20 minutes, a big twist happens, and it just throws pretty much everything that the movie was building out the window. And it's like, no, now we're actually going with this. And oh man, it really lost me. It really lost me. I mean, Dragon, there's a point in this movie where I just did not care anymore. And that's a real shame. So Yeah, it's not nearly as good as Searching. Like the buildup is solid though, so that's the frustrating thing. I feel like there are elements in this movie that do work. But yeah, I just cannot in good consciousness recommend it. I think I'm one of the people who's more like actively, I just did not think it was good. I feel like more people are just like, yeah, it was still good. It just wasn't as good as Searching. Like, no, Searching was way better, in my opinion. Okay. So the hatchet wielding, or I'm sorry. Yeah, the hatchet wielding hitchhiker.
Yeah, so we both saw this. I thought this was
Smash, smash, smash.
smash, smash, smash.
I really like this.
I too really liked this. I thought this was a very
I
true
think the
crime
year's
doc.
starting off on a good foot for documentaries between this and the one that we have in catch up.
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't you start us off on this one?
Yeah, so this was it's a very unconventional story with a twist. You know, you have obviously kind of this it's a great movie about how, the media portrays people and like they kind of make and break heroes.
Mhm.
So in this case, we kind of make a hero by turning him into a viral sensation. This homeless drifter guy, Kai, that guy Kai here. He
No, not the character from Better Call Saul.
no, not
Not
him.
that Kai.
Yeah.
Honestly, the first couple times I heard the name, that's all I could think about, honestly.
That guy always getting into trouble. Given we do feature a hatchet in one of the other Germans in
That's what I'm
Better
saying.
Call
Like
Saul.
pretty prominently, might I add.
Oh, very prominently, yes. Do some damage with that thing. Anyway, so the thing, we seemingly have a very cut and dry kind of hero situation. Homeless drifter hitches a ride, guy goes crazy, and he's about to hurt a woman, and he basically hits him in the head with the axe like 3 times, not killing him, but basically hits him with the blunt side, then he hits him with the sharp side. So yeah, so it's kind of like a lightning in a bottle kind of sensation that happens here. He's then interviewed by one guy who's like in the right place at the right time. And doesn't the guy's hard to track down. It becomes this insane sensation, but he is it's like it's the fact that like he doesn't care about monetary material or monetary things, and he seems to just be kind of like
He
he's a
just
crazy
wants to go to Dogtown and catch some waves.
yeah, like he's a crazy homeless guy, but he seems to be initially he seems to be kind of a kind-hearted crazy homeless guy, and then
Uh-huh.
basically as it goes on, this is what's great about this documentary. It just there's disquieting realizations kind of occur in which it's
Like,
like that
wait a minute.
something's a little off here. He's not just
What I
kind of
really like about the structure of this movie is that like it's kind of like a good murder mystery, right? Where it's
yeah
like everything you need to know about what actually goes down is in the initial clip itself. You know what I
yeah
mean?
well yeah. What do you do? Well, he hit a guy with
Like
an
you
axe.
see that initial clip and you're like, okay, like yeah, I vibe with this guy. I get what he's saying, you know, because I feel like he catches you off guard so much with the whole like like life positivity message. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like that kind of like blinds people to everything else in that clip.
Exactly. So there's something really interesting about that. I just love the idea that they have like this thing where they're trying to get him on the Jimmy Kimmel show, and it's just that build up of like, man,
They were trying
he's
to get this dude a reality show. I'm like, who in their
yeah.
right mind would have thought that would work?
But I love that's how the media in Hollywood kind of works at times. It's just like, well, this guy's kind of a some. We have like there's like a Grumpy Cat show in movies and stuff. Tiki, anything can happen.
Yes, Dragon, but Grumpy Cat is a product, not a human being.
That's what I'm saying. It's the fact that anything can happen. It's like so it's the fact that they have this realization as they're trying to get him on TV and trying to essentially merchandise him to the world, not exactly to someone specifically or for himself. They're trying to merchandise to the world, and then we get the full seeming. We're getting more and more context on the guy, and we see Kai really is a disturbed homeless guy. But there's the question of, and people are not fully convinced by this, but there's a question: is he a killer or not?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, this is a guy who is, he saved a woman through violence, essentially. So there are questions
Smash,
there.
smash, smash.
And again, just things examination of how the media portrays people and what we do with
I
that.
also think it's an interesting examination. I feel like we're probably going to get more and more documentaries like this as time goes on of what a meme can do to a person.
Yeah, which is great.
I honestly feel like that's material right for like what's the Numa guy up to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is why I recommended this to you, Tiki. It's just the sense of like we've seen so many true crime documentaries, like so many times they can reinvent that wheel. Where you have something really interesting here that we do not get a lot of on the Netflix documentary side of things. It was really fresh and it was really, I don't know. I mean, you liked it though. But, hello?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it was just point being, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Well, now I can. I didn't hear you for a moment there.
Tay Zonde. I would want a documentary about that guy. Do you know who he is?
No, I don't know who that guy is.
Chocolate Rain.
Ah.
Do you remember Chocolate Rain? Do you
Vaguely,
remember Chocolate Rain, Dragon? Do you remember Chocolate Rain?
I vaguely remember.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I think I've seen Chocolate Rain. I do not.
The interesting thing about Chocolate Rain for me is that like he wrote that song to be like a genuinely, like, if you listen to the lyrics, it is like a genuinely like hard hitting song about like social commentary and racism and stuff like that. And it's a meme. And I would love to hear that guy's perspective on it like all these years later. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Cool. Okay, sorry, that got derailed.
Right.
Okay, so Plane.
So that was the movie.
Get on the plane.
How was that movie? It was plain, it was plain.
I genuinely really like this movie.
Oh, that's good to hear. So this is Gerard Butler and the great Mike Coulter.
Yeah, for sure. Like, definitely check this one out once it inevitably comes to some sort of streaming service. Because let's face it, it is a movie that's kind of born to exist on streaming services.
Yeah.
But it was fun though, man. It was a lot of fun. Gerard Butler, he's playing. I don't know Gerard Butler. Do you know if he's because is he Australian in real life? I think he is.
He is Australian or he is English. I think
because he's playing Irish in this movie, and I was like, that's a really interesting choice, Gerard Butler. I'm not sure if you're doing it well, but it's an interesting choice. But yeah, I feel like the really interesting thing about this movie is that it's genuinely paced super freaking well. Like, because you know me, Dragon, action movies do tend to bore me.
Scottish.
Oh, he's Scottish. Okay, that makes sense because he is Scottish in this. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, so my thing with Gerard Butler though is like he's usually playing like an American hunk, or he's playing like Australian, or like he's in the 300 boat. I rarely see him doing anything Scottish. Like when I think of Scottish, I think of like anyways.
Would you call like we had him as a Viking? Would you say there was some Scottishness in the Viking with the How to Train Your Dragon?
Maybe. Anyways. So I actually think the plane crash scene in this movie is really well done, and really like the CGI is maybe a little off, but it's on point. It's on point. Like the build up, the suspense is on point. And I do think that Mike Coulter's character doesn't really have a ton of depth to him. He's mostly just like, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time right out of high school. So it's like people think he's some hardened guy, but he's really just kind of typical Luke Cage stuff, honestly. But the movie just has a really good pace to it. It's a very simple movie. They're just kind of trying to protect themselves from these bad cartel guys. The villains just basically, Dragon, the villains have no character, right? Like, it's just like mean drug lord man and his number 2 who gets murdered at the end of the second act, and so mean drug lord man is out for revenge. It's like there's no depth to the characters at all, like as far as the villains go. But there's some likable side characters, like some surprisingly likable side characters. Like, one of Gerard Butler's character traits as a pilot is that he uses humor to defuse stressful situations. And like you kind of see that, like during his initial oh, welcome aboard, he's kind of cracking dad jokes, and the audiences or the passengers are rolling their eyes. But then as the turbulence kind of kicks in, it's like, oh, okay, that's but anyways, I like this movie a lot. I don't know. Weirdly, I have a very weird comparison for this movie. All right. I feel like this movie feels a lot like Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
You know how I like Jurassic Park 3 specifically because it's a B movie and it knows it's a B movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie gives off the exact same type of vibe for me.
Okay.
So, anyways. All right. Okay, so Pamela, A Love Story. What do you got?
Yeah, this is the Pam Anderson documentary they put up on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, this is kind of Pam Anderson's response to the Pam and Tommy show. Ultimately,
does she directly address that show?
Yeah, they directly address the show.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not from the start, but they do address it in the movie. So, also basically, the whole thing just feels just Pam Anderson giving her side, telling her life story, but also just kind of giving like some context to how things go for her. This is like the first half of this thing is kind of like her life and Tommy Lee of it all. And the back half is kind of like the aftermath of everything, and kind of like Pam Anderson and the punchline and the activism and all of her multiple divorces, but also again the reaction, how like hurt she kind of felt because she had no involvement in Pam and Tommy. Because again, the whole point of that story is that it's like they have no say in the matter over that thing. So yet again, the people brought up the argument. I think you and I briefly talked about this. Pam and Tommy, it's that it feels like they've been exploited by them telling that story, just kind of like drudging all that up 20 years later.
Sure.
So there's definitely that is addressed and that is talked about, and you feel bad for the movie. The documentary is very honest. It's a self-effacing look at her life. Pam Anderson, the charm's there. It's like you feel for her. Also, I think you might like this. At the end, like the most recent thing that she's doing, while in kind of the second half of this thing, like they kind of frame it towards the very end. She's performing. She's doing a performance of Chicago on Broadway, I think.
Oh, nice.
So I think she's playing the main character in that.
Roxy or Velma?
Roxy.
Roxy, okay.
No, that is the main character, right? That's what her name is.
Yes,
that's what I thought. Yeah, that's her. So I mean, this is a good deep dive. I mean, what I say,
I just realized Chicago Velma is like the best Velma now.
Anyway. It's the I mean, look, I would not look if I had to pick a story feature Pam Anderson. I'm going to go with Pam and Tommy because I really love that story's tell with all the Gillespie involved in that.
Sure.
But I mean, this is good.
I mean, like Drake. Here's the thing: I feel like Craig Gillespie, at least he was very sympathetic. Whereas I feel like something like Dahmer was sympathetic to an extent for sure, but it was also very exploitive in a way that I just don't think Pam and Tommy was.
Yeah, that's it. And Pam and Tommy, it feels like they were trying to say something nice about Pam and Tommy.
Right.
The whole point of that story is that they're saying, as in the course of that story, when they tell is that it's a love story at the core of it, where again it's basically sex equating to love. They were making love and it was caught on videotape and what this documentary kind of gets into is that the sex tape itself was comprised of a bunch of home movies. So it was like edited together to be one tape. Like in the show, it was just one tape that they made. So based on that, again, this is just kind of like it was again, so similar themes in there, but anyway, right. So it was good.
Okay, let's see. So, oh god,
Tiki, let me introduce this one. Let me introduce this
Go ahead.
Tiki, why don't you tell us about A Man Called Otto?
Why, yes, Dragon, I would love to call you about A Man Called Otto.
A Man Called Otto.
Okay, this movie is lame Gran Torino, man. There's no other way to put it. There's really no other way to put it.
Well, the other way to put it, it's Grumpy Tom Hanks, the movie.
Yeah, it's like Gran Torino with no teeth whatsoever.
It's Gran Torino with false teeth.
Right. Drake, again, it's like, I still think you'd probably get something out of it just for the Grumpy Tom Hanks of it all. I would say like maybe the first 15 minutes, like literally the setup of his character before any of the inspirational feel good stuff happens is genuinely interesting because it's like, oh, Tom Hanks is actually like, it's a genuine, like, I will say that this is probably like out of all the stupid weird shit, like this is a way better Tom Hanks performance than Elvis, you know what I mean? But yeah, the movie is just so painfully formulaic and feel good, and it's got just nothing to say, man. It's really just, it very much reminds me of The Upside, where it's like, it's a decent movie, decent performances, but really at the end of the day, it's kind of just very much filler, feel good January, like it's so sweet it'll give me diabetes. But yeah, honestly, Dragon, do you know the initial setup for the movie?
Well, I mean, I've seen the trailer for it, so basically all the trailer conveyed to me was, okay, Tom Hanks is kind of the grumpy neighbor who will
So
basically
Tom
probably
Hanks
be,
isn't just grumpy at the start of the movie, Dragon.
yeah.
The movie literally, the first scene is him trying to buy rope from Home Depot to hang himself. Like he's straight up suicidal at the start. He's basically like Carl Fredricksen post Ellie if freaking if the why am I blanking on the goddamn kid?
Russell.
If Russell didn't come into his life, Jesus Christ.
Oy.
um but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, just the movie just has no teeth at all. Like there's no sense of dramatic tension. There's there's just nothing. It's a nothing burger, But like I said, interesting. Like for the first 10 minutes or so, where Tom Hanks is just legitimately grumpy and suicidal. It's like, oh, okay, this could actually be a little bit more than I was thinking. But no. Oh, and also, Dragon, the woman who plays the Hispanic mother who befriends Tom Hanks. She looks so much like Carmen from Cobra Kai. It was so distracting, and it's not her. And it was like one of those things, like that one kid from Bad Times at the El Royale who looks like Tom Holland. It's like the whole movie. I'm just thinking, like, that is that looks so much like Carmen. Anyways. Okay, what's your next one, Dragon?
Okay, the next one I got is Amber, the Girl Behind the Alert. So this is a documentary on Peacock. See, unfortunately, folks, I wasn't able to see something like A Man Called Otto. But or the other movie, or The Sun, which I was hoping to see, but I was a little dissuaded. Honestly, I could
I
have
really don't
finished.
think you're missing much with The Sun. I have not heard good things at
I
all.
definitely want to catch it on streaming if I can,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, regardless. So what I did is I kind of resorted to a lot of docs that were available here. So Amber, the Girl Behind the Alerts, this is a Peacock documentary on Peacock. It's basically about the origin of the Amber Alert. It's it's the tragedy of the sobering lesson of the importance of the 48-hour window when a
Mhm.
child has been abducted. So here's the thing: it's good, but I think the execution at the start could have been could have been kind of spiced up a little. I don't know. It could have been. I don't know. It feels a little. I think the structure of it feels a little by there at the start, but I think the end gets really good. Just the fact that here's the thing: the end is great and hopeful in that we see they kind of tell the story of how in Ireland they tested this thing out in Ireland, which I think is where the Amber thing happened in the first place, which is why they kind of started there in Ireland. And it was the first use of the Amber Alert. And they tell this harrowing, awesome story about how they achieved success in saving a kidnapped child. And so basically, the moral of the movie is it's like the cost of one life saves so many kids. And I thought that was really great. So I really love the back half of this thing. I just wish it kind of had the same kind of enthralling flow because again, it's sort of like this kind of story we've always heard a lot of the time where we're kind of getting everyone together and we're looking for the kid, but it didn't really have the tension I was kind of hoping it would have at the top. It was just a little bit more like, and then this happened, and this, but then
Sure, yeah.
storytelling gets better and kind of like what happens in the aftermath. So yeah, so it's not a strong recommendation, but I'd watch that them detailing that the Ireland thing, but.
All right, and finally, Skinamarink. This is a very interesting movie. You would hate it so much. You would hate it so much. Just so much. But okay, Drake, do you know anything? Have you come across it all like the big thing with liminal spaces? Does that ring a bell at all?
What spaces?
Liminal spaces.
It sounds familiar, but you might have to explain it to me.
So it's basically like kind of like childhood, like photos of places in childhood, like I don't know, like examples are like ball pits or like indoor pools, stuff like that. And photos of these kind of places that just give off a really eerie vibe just because of how like it's basically the feeling like like you feel like you've been in this location before, but you don't have a memory of being in the location before, but you feel it. Making any kind of sense at all with that?
It's basically kind of a sense of deja vu, is what you're saying.
Essentially, a little bit. Yeah, it's like deja vu in the form of a photograph. Kind of. Yeah, that is kind of. I'm actually kind of surprised deja vu doesn't get mentioned in that conversation. Well, uh, more importantly, are you familiar with the concept of analog horror at all?
Well, analog horror isn't that just more of like uncovering something really terrible from the past?
Okay, I'm gonna
Like,
have a really hard time explaining this. I'm
well, I
sorry.
okay, well,
It's not your fault, Dragon. It's the movie's fault. The movie is very
what?
niche.
All right.
I'm sorry. So this movie is literally shots of corners of hallways and Legos and like very obscure, grainy footage of dark bedrooms and stuff like that. And
Okay, so
it's a
it's like camcorder horror, is what you're saying.
kind of, but it's not found footage. It's
Okay.
more meant to be like it's shot in a found footage style, but it's meant to more be like like God, it's a tone poem more than anything else. It's a very very hard movie to describe. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. I was genuinely a little bit restless watching it in the theater, but I do think that essentially the best way I can describe it is that it's the type of movie that like you genuinely feel like you are 5 years old, and it kind of gives off that same sort of fear that you had when you were 5 years old of like the monsters in the closet type of fear, or the afraid of the dark type of the illogical but very primal and genuine childhood fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
um it brings that about, but it's more or less a tone poem. Like for me, it barely feels like an actual movie. So that's why I'm kind of like I'm a little bit frustrated and mixed on it, but at the same time, I can't stop thinking about it since I saw it. Right, so you know, there's definitely merit in it for sure. I just don't like. I couldn't recommend it as a movie because as a movie, it is literally just staring at hallways and corners of rooms for an hour and 40 minutes. Like, there's not a lot there. It's a very perplexing movie, Dragon. It really is. I really don't know what to make of it, but I'm fascinated by it. Like, I am
Yeah.
genuinely interested in it, and I'm like, honest, Dragon. It's the type of movie where it's like I am genuinely I enjoy engaging in it more like from the fandom point of view of, watching theory videos about like the meaning of it or what it could possibly mean. I've had a lot more enjoyment about that than I had actually watching the movie itself. So take that for what you will. It is legitimately unlike any movie I've ever seen as far as the actual structure and the shot composition goes. Okay, so let's move on to TV.
All right. Let me tell you about Tulsa King season one.
I've heard about this.
Yeah. So this is a Paramount. This is about a Paramount Plus show.
Okay.
So essentially, what happened is Paramount Plus employed a writer by the name of Taylor Sheridan. Now, this guy, he did one of the movies you
I
really
know
like.
Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah, he did Hell or High Water.
Yeah, definitely.
So they hired this guy to develop and show run a bunch of shows, like the main ones being basically all the flagship shows that are not Star Trek are this guy.
Okay.
So Yellowstone, that's him. That's the biggest hit they have
Oh, I
on
didn't
right
know
now.
Yellowstone was him.
Yeah,
Oh, wow,
Yellowstone
that's
is him,
interesting.
and Mayor of Kingstown, which we'll talk about later, that is also him. And this one he did not show run, but he did create it and he did write it. So he's involved in this, but he did not, he didn't play. He's not running it because he's running so many shows. He probably has to pick certain ones that be there
Uh-huh.
from start to finish on. So the idea of this show is Stallone. It stars Sylvester Stallone, which is his first time in a show outside of like a guest spot, like the Muppet Show or something. He's actually as a lead on a TV show, which he's never done before. He's playing a mobster who was released from prison after he basically had to clean up the mob's mess, and he was essentially the fall guy. And he followed the code. He didn't see and talk to anyone in prison and everything. So basically, did his time. It's like 20 years or so later, and he comes out. And basically, they kind of exile him because the idea is, because he's an older guy now, it's a generational thing. He would not fit in the modern world that the mob is operating in now. So they kind of send him off. They pretty much send him off to not die, and they're going to kill him, but just send him off to well, it's like out of respect, we're still going to give you kind of like a pat on the head and give you something to do. So they send him to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he's like a New York mobster. So they send him to you're going to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's going to be all your territory. And he
That's
really takes
funny.
off a bit. So here, Tiki, I think you'd really like this show, honestly, because here's the thing.
Honestly, that premise sounds amusing.
So he takes over, it's Stallone with all the charm, but as a mobster, so he's definitely got some intimidation on his side there. He takes over this dispensary that is ran by Martin Starr. You know Martin Starr, right?
Yes.
So yeah, he runs like a pot dispensary, and he is basically he kind of walks in there and he basically spins it into like a protection racket, like a mobster, and he takes over the business. So he's kind of co-running it
That's funny.
So he's co-running with Martin Starr essentially and turning it into his new.
I would like to see that
enterprise.
crossover with fucking Disjointed and just have him kill those two terrible comic relief side characters.
Tiki, don't make me dream.
Just on the spot, just ice them.
I know, because
In
Tiki,
the
when
most
he walks in
brutal
there,
way possible.
there is this awesome bit, Tiki, in like the first episode. He walks in there and basically tough talks him, and the security guy, like an overweight security guy,
Oh
tries
yeah,
to.
Dragon. Everyone who's a stoner has knows the type of the overweight security guard. Yes, that is a
That's what I'm
very.
saying. So the overweight security guard, he comes there, he basically tells, okay, it's time for you to leave. So Stallone, he walks out and he grabs I don't know if it's like he asks if his driver who eventually becomes kind of his sidekick, he asks him kind of like Argyle from Die Hard. It's literally kind of like a young black kid who's driving around from the area. It's like his Uber driver who then becomes his regular driver.
Oh my
He kind of
god,
makes him. That's he's building a crew.
This shit.
He builds he builds a crew in Oklahoma from all these people that he comes across, and anyway. So he runs with these. Okay, do you have a tire iron? Yeah, let me just get the train. Actually, he grabs the kid's metal thermos, like the metal like a metal water bottle. He goes in there and beats the crap out of the security guard, just to kind of convey what's going on there. Anyway. So Stallone's great. He's charming, and he has a great character to play with because the guy, his name is like Dwight Manfredi, and they call him. His nickname is the General because he was named after Dwight D. Eisenhower. So he's like not a diplomat, but he's definitely the guy you want in a crisis. So this shows it's nice. It's small in scale, given the Oklahoma, the Tulsa of it all. The intimacy, I think, kind of makes it stand out. It's like ultimately the big threat is like it's the mob versus a biker gang. That's his only competition in town.
Oh, that's funny.
Dana Delaney's in it. Lois Lane, Andrea Beaumont, she is in this. And is returning for season 2. Oddly, only 9 episodes. I wonder why it was 9 and not 10. That's kind of odd to me. But
you know what's funny? I've always had this thing of I think 9 episode seasons would be a smart way to go, just because you would have essentially 3-act structures.
I gotta re-examine and see if they do kind of a 3-act structure thing with it, but it is. I mean, I don't know. It's 9 episodes, so maybe it'll.
I've thought about that a lot, actually, of doing a TV show where it's essentially each season is 3 different arcs that each contain a 3-act structure in their own right. You know what I mean? All right. Anyways, that's just a weird kind of that's literally an autism thing with me thinking so hard about that.
Well, anyway, so Dominic Lombardozzi, he's one of the heavies in this. Again, Dominic Lombardozzi is the actor I keep casting for Michael Eisner and all the Disney
Right,
movies.
yeah,
He
yeah.
plays he plays kind of the son of the mobster that basically Dwight's his old friends with the lead mobster who runs the whole organization. His son, who's like next in line, is Dominic Lombardozzi, and he's and of course he's the Kingpin's father in Daredevil. That was his big it's a big I think we all know him from. So yeah, he's good in this too. So, but yeah, Tiki, this show's great. If you're gonna do a mob show, it's like kind of nice and simple and different from the usual mob
Yeah,
shows.
no,
Like it's
it sounds delightful, honestly.
it's great. So yeah,
I
Lizzie,
don't necessarily want to pay for Paramount Plus again, but like if I can find it elsewhere, I'll
yeah,
give it a shot.
I would recommend it. Yes.
All right, Kaleidoscope. Oh boy, Dragon. This is probably going to be the one that you and I are the most divided on. Like, I didn't hate it, but I found this show to be. It had a really interesting gimmick, but on a whole, I found it to be pretty average. Like, I don't necessarily like. I am kind of struggling with the gimmick of it all and why it needed. I don't know. I like Giancarlo's fine. It's far from the most interesting we've seen from him as far as acting goes. I just none of the characters really popped for me at all. It just felt like very, very almost stock. I mean that's the thing for me, Dragon. I know you have more to say about this, and I'll give you the floor in a second. But for me personally, I felt like this. It was almost like this weird in between of like, because we're doing this gimmick with the watching episodes in any order thing, the characters almost have to be two-dimensional. I don't know. This was a struggle for me to get through, man. I'm not gonna lie. Just from a pacing point of view. There were certainly moments that were interesting, like like White is definitely an interesting, that's a great way to go out and an interesting thing to build to. But just as a whole, Dragon, I've seen heist type stories done a lot more compelling than this. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me personally. It's a subjectivity thing, I think.
Yeah. So I really liked Kaleidoscope. Yeah, I love this. If I'm being frank, I thought it was. I thought the gimmick was cool. Like the idea Netflix kind of assigns you a different colored order, and you technically could watch them. We don't really do flashbacks. What we do is each episode is a different setting of time in the midst of in relation to the heist story. I mean, Tiki. I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I do feel it is. It's more a story piece than a character piece. I mean, the only character we really develop and we need to develop is the Leo character, is
Yeah,
Giancarlo
and
Esposito's
he
character.
definitely does get a
Yeah,
lot of development for sure.
yeah,
I just feel like literally the entire rest of the crew is just very, very, very stock.
yeah. I don't know. I guess that just didn't bother me. Just given
It,
like
bo-
this.
I think that right there, Dragon, that right there, that thing is pretty much the dividing point between you and me. The fact that it didn't bother you, but it was a big kind of like, I just found a hard time caring about a lot of these people.
I guess just for me when I was watching this, I was just so enamored by like what we were doing story wise on this. Like, okay, so we're seeing the escape here, like the green prison escape, and Violet for me was the MVP of all these. I love Violet. Violet, just the idea that we're seeing the origin of why Leo is so obsessed with pulling this heist. I know. I thought his performance. I love Giancarlo's performance in this whole thing because he plays a man who's kind of slowly losing his faculties, but also we're seeing him kind of his heyday at the same time. We do an episode like Violet, and I don't know. This is the first time I think we've ever. I don't know if it's the first time ever, but at the very least for us, it's the first time we're seeing Giancarlo in the leading man position, which he's going to do another one of on AMC is going to have a show where Giancarlo's going to be the lead on it as well. But this is kind of a good taste of what we might get from Giancarlo if
Uh-huh.
we put him in the leading man thing, which I think he absolutely has had the he's proved like in spades he has the chops for leading man. So I like that. Again, I do like the build up that even if it is out of order, you do have like these great inklings and kind of connective kind of bits that do kind of bleed into the other ones and give you kind of an experience there. But again, this is old news, and I think everyone kind of knows that they're getting with this show. Um, it's so funny to me though with characterization though. For me, Jai Courtney is basically playing Captain Boomerang again is really funny to me. I was just really amused. Like, yeah, he's just
My
literally playing
big
Captain
issue with
Boomerang.
Jai Courtney was like they make it a whole like romantic triangle thing. And it's like, what kind of woman would ever go for this jackass, bro? I'm not saying the other guy was Prince Charming either, but
Yeah.
all right. Anyways,
Point being, I mean, I realized I like that it was kind of like a very, very direct story in terms of what it's pretty much it's a heist, but like how can we take the most like we've seen 100 times before story, and how can we kind of like reconfigure and at least kind of zhuzh it up a little? And I think we did that. And I think you're going to do a miniseries on a heist. I know a lot of people are going to point to that show called The Heist, which I'm sure is good, but still for me, something I can get into with Giancarlo Esposito. I dug this.
there's that show. I think it's just called like
Money
Heist, right?
Yeah, that's that. When I said The Heist show, that's the show I meant. Money Heist. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that the show that Joshua Thomas was really big on?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Everyone hype. Everyone loves Money Heist.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dragon, tell me about Hunters season 2.
Yeah. Well, let me say it. I guess the simplest way I can summarize is Tiki. You have to watch Hunter season 2.
No, I know I do.
So yeah, here's the thing. This is the last season for it. This is the final part of essentially the 2-part story with season 1, season 2, which I think worked best in the end, doing it that way. It's kind of ending. I don't know if it was like out of their control or not, but they kind of ended with 2. Without getting into all the nitty gritty of it, they're going after Hitler in season 2. Yep, that's the season.
I mean, that seems like a pretty logical endpoint for the story, right?
We hunt Nazis. We're going after Hitler.
Killing Nazis.
So yeah, I was.
God, Hunters really is just the more grounded and glorious bastard.
Well, I told you, Tiki, and I actually had a realization here. So again, as I said with the first season, Hunters is like a combination of Schindler's List meets directed by Quentin Tarantino.
That's totally.
As a TV show, which now he's doing. At some point, Tarantino's going to do like a miniseries. So yeah, there you go.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Tarantino's career kind of like went more and more in the TV direction. It seems like that's where he kind of wants to go.
And it's funny that if you look between this season and then season 2, it feels like season 1's more in better mind, still with the Tarantino influence, but like season 1's more Schindler's List. This season is much more Inglorious, Tiki. This season's all sorts of Inglorious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to hype this up for you, Tiki. Episode 9. I think they did 10 episodes and it's episode 9. If they did 8, it's the penultimate episode. Whichever one's the penultimate episode, Tiki. That episode is very ambitious and weird and has a great payoff and is so up your alley.
Okay, cool.
But yeah,
the only thing is I just kind of feel like it's been forever since I've watched season 1, so I just need to actually take the time to watch season 1. And as you know, I'm kind of like, I need to be in the right frame of mind, so it might be a minute before I get to it, but I'm excited to get to it.
I will say season 2 I don't think is as heavy as season 1 in terms.
Okay, that's good to know.
That's because again, season 1 with the whole Schindler's List comparison, I was in one.
Yeah, season 1 was very heavy.
That's what I mean. So season 1 being Schindler's List, that's very much you have to buy into the Hunter's mission, so they're taking you back to the concentration camps, which obviously not exactly a happy experience. Season 2 is very much like we're in the thick of like we're hunting the ultimate prey, and there's that. Season 2 is the action season, where season 1's kind of the emotional season. Season 2 is the action season, but the emotion does come in by the very end. Carol Kane, Teak, I'm going to tell you, Carol Kane.
Ooh.
She's not used all over the place this season. She's in it. Don't worry, she's in it from the whole start. But is doing kind of what she did before. But in the last episode, Carol Kane has an amazing scene in the last episode. She's like a big scene. It feels like, and again, knowing what she's been through, because she lost her husband in the first season. And it's like everything we've done to her, and what they do in the last episode with her is really cool. And there's a time. The only issue I have with season 2 is that ultimately, I think I prefer season 1. That's not a knock on season 2, but I'm saying if I were to stack them up against each other, season 2 starts with a time jump between seasons. Not a big time jump, but time has passed. And it works, but to me, there's a lot of hype over why they separated. And it's not the whole show isn't about getting the band back. It's like the first episode is like why they are in disparate positions when they get back together for the Hitler hunt. It just bothers me that we don't we don't show this event that we hype up. That apparently Jonah, the Logan Lerman character. I still say Logan Lerman, man. If we need the recast Spider-Man, do an Elseworld, do like a multiverse thing. Let's get Logan Lerman in the Spider-Man costume. Let's do it. Yeah, apparently he did something really bad in the his character did something really bad, and we talk about it, we don't show it, and I'm not sure how to feel about that because I think we convey we don't need to see it, but it still feels like there was a lot of that was a really important thing that kind of split the team up, and we don't really show it. I don't know.
Right.
That's the only real gripe I have. We do kind of a Godfather Part 2 thing with our structure on this, which is really interesting.
Oh, interesting.
And given the actor involved in that is a very apt comparison. Okay.
All right. All right, go Cuphead season 2. I literally forgot that this was getting more episodes, and the only reason I remembered was because I was looking on my Switch, like, let's see, what can I play? Oh yeah, the Cuphead DLC came out recently, and then I remembered, like, oh yeah. So Drake and I kind of had a little bit of a Cuphead, like a mini Cuphead fix this month, and season 2 is solid. The thing with Cuphead as a show, Dragon, is I actually really think it's pretty underrated as far as just I think it does a really, really good job of fleshing out characters of the game and actually giving them like really distinct personalities to the point where it's like now when I play the games and it's like before it's just like Cuphead and Mugman, Mugman was more or less just player 2, whereas the show actually gave him a pretty distinct personality. So I appreciate that about the show. And I feel like the criticisms of the show of like, oh, the animation's not as good as the game. Well, yeah, the game was a fucking like labor of love that took years to make. So yeah, of course it's not going to be like actually hand drawn. But I still think they maintained the style well enough, and the humor is pretty on point. So I don't think it's an amazing show by any stretch, but I do think it's pretty underrated just as far as, like, everyone's going nuts about The Last of Us, and for good reason. The Last of Us is amazing. But I think the Cuphead show is very solid as far as, obviously Cuphead, much lighter IP than The Last of Us. It's not meant to be like a big, rolled, weary, philosophical kind of thing, but for what it is, I feel like the show captures the vibe of the game quite nicely. And I also think it's really weird how essentially they just had like one batch of episodes that they broke up into 3 seasons. So that was odd that Netflix did it like that. But I'll probably watch the 3rd batch of episodes, but at the same time, I do feel like they did kind of like start recycling characters and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. It was solid though. All right. The Mayor of Kingstown.
Well, Mayor of Kingstown.
Mayor of Kingstown. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So this is Taylor Sheridan's other Paramount Plus show. This I watched this because I've heard some hype about it. I knew Jeremy Renner did this show, but obviously in light of what's happening with Jeremy Renner, I think everyone's been checking out Mayor of Kingstown lately. I tell you, man, because of the most recent thing he's been doing. Basically, after I imagine he was doing this before Hawkeye, and Hawkeye was kind of a respite between seasons. And the second season is airing right now, like weekly. So right now they're probably waiting to come back for the 3rd one, depending on how the Renner recovery goes, which I would imagine is going to take a long, long time.
Mm.
But so let me tell you about Mayor of Kingstown, man. So Jeremy Renner is essentially kind of essentially he's a power broker, but I think the best way of putting he's essentially a fixer. Like Mike Ehrmantraut. And oddly, his name is Mike McCluskey, so Mike Ehrmantraut, Mike McCluskey, So basically the way this works, Steve, is a really good idea. This guy keeps the peace as kind of an unofficial mayor of a prison town. So what happens is you have this. So this is kind of it's a fusion of. It takes place in Michigan, but it's kind of based on there's a penitentiary in Canada where they shoot called Kinston. or well, not I guess Kingston, but not Kingstown. So they made anyway. So they points they kind of fused in. What if Michigan had
When I
a
see
prison?
Kingston, I honestly, my first thought is Kingston, Jamaica.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's the point being, it's kind of based off. There's a prison in Canada called Kingston. So what if we just made Michigan have a prison that very much is kind of like a central figure in how this town operates in the hierarchy of the power structure. So that's essentially the idea. Is there's a connective relationship of corruption in this town. It's a terrible town. It's a very Gotham City-esque kind of place. Only what if Gotham City had like a prison at the center instead of Arkham Asylum, practically.
Uh-huh.
You have it's basically there's a relationship between the cops, the guards, the gangs, and the prisoners. So these four kind of factions are very much in conjunction with each other. Anything that happens is a ripple effect on anything that happens with these four organizations. And there's a big status quo shift in the first episode, pretty much at the top of the first episode, which basically thrusts all the responsibility in managing these factions onto Mike McCluskey, onto Jeremy Renner.
Uh-huh.
So he is constantly driving around in what they call his tank of a car because it gets smashed and everything, but it's Detroit steel, my friend. He's constantly driving from one problem into another. That has to do with the prison because one of the prison guards' nephews screws up majorly in the prison, so he's putting out fires in all four of the organizations. Because of this, it's a great show. It's very addictive. Renner is brilliant in the show as the kind of this tough guy muscle who's being forced into being essentially Mike Ehrmantraut. He's more muscle than Ehrmantraut, but he's kind of forced into being that kind of guy into this. So he's all about like you muscle and intimidation, basically carrying out the orders beforehand, but now he has to step up. And yeah, it's like what if you cross like Walter White in the early seasons of Breaking Bad with Mike Ehrmantraut? So that's kind of the best way I could describe what Renner's doing here. So yeah, it's there are some left turns taken for sure. I think the best dynamic in the show is Mike and the lead gang member, well, on the outside, Bunny. Bunny is this huge black guy who sits in a lawn chair and he wears a parka in the summer because he needs to carry all his stuff in pockets. And they have like a funny report, like Bunny's all friendly and pleasantries, despite them not really being friends, but he kind of extends the pleasantries, which is why I love Bunny. And yeah, the whole first season is kind of building to this big riot that happens. There's a lot of good stuff there. I don't know. It's the only issue I have with the show is not an issue with the first season, but it's kind of an issue with the second season that's starting now. There's this character called Iris who kind of grows on you. She just seems more trouble than she's worth. Like kind of she teeters the line of a problem character. But yeah, the show the show is basically what if the Daredevil episode 7 Minutes in Heaven got a spinoff? That's essentially what it is,
right.
And it's great, and I love it. Tiki, I highly recommend Mayor of Kingstown.
All right. Okay, so Tron Uprising Dragon. This was probably the biggest disappointment of the month for me, honestly. I got to tell you, man, the first episode of this is a mess as far as the plot goes. Like, it is throwing plot at you. Like, I mean, I'm a big Tron fan, right? Like, I feel like I know the lore. But no, I mean, it's like, I don't know. This series just has such a messy way of introducing information that really bothered me. It felt like episode 1 started like midway through a season storyline and you never got caught up. I will say I really like the voice acting, Elijah Wood, very solid lead character there. But yeah, it also has like Dragon, ultimately the cardinal sin with this show is that like I feel like in some elements, it's almost too sophisticated for its own good, where it's trying to be. I feel like the plot has way too many moving parts and it just ends up being confusing by the end. And then also, it's like, it's got that unfortunate, there's definitely like a childish sensibility to some of it because it is a Disney XD show. So it's really imbalanced, man. I probably wouldn't have even kept watching it if it weren't for Elijah Woods and the fact that the art style is admittedly really cool. I mean, it's Tron, so what are you going to do? At a certain point, though, Dragon, this show I was basically just watching it as like background eye candy, so not a strong recommend at all, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I was really wanting to like it.
Yeah, I heard good things about Uprising, but I guess that's
Like you might have a better time with it, given that you're more into like the. I feel like the storytelling of it is a bit more up your speed because I don't know. Like I said, it's just my main problem with it is I just felt lost because it's just throwing a lot at you. It's a lot to keep track of. Just very tonally distant for me.
Okay.
Okay. Rapid fire through your next two, Dragon.
All right, Madoff, the Monster of Wall Street. So not a lot here. Just so this is it's a little Netflix miniseries. It's 4 episodes. It kind of so they've done a take on the Bernie Madoff affair before with this TV movie that was done on HBO called Wizard of Lies with Robert De Niro and Michelle
I
Pfeiffer.
remember that. Yeah,
that was good. I really liked that. Now this, I mean, it's no Wizard of Lies. I mean, it is a good recounting of the events. It's more. Again, remember, these are two very different things. Where the Wizard of Lies is like trying to get inside Bernie Madoff's head, like posing the question, like, what compels a guy to screw everyone over like that? Like, what happens there? This is not. This is just the facts. It's reporting the facts of like, yeah, and this is how he did. I like getting into specifics of how he did it. Like the idea, like the falsified documents, he had to age the paper in a fridge. I love that. It's a, I mean, and then when you kind of cover, like, we hear the testimony of the victims and everything. So, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not really telling me too much I didn't know already from Wizard of Lies, but it does get into a little bit more of the aftermath of like what happened to his kids and everything, and how these poor old people are forced to kind of like pay up for what all the money that he stole from them. It's unfortunate, but it's not a strong recommendation. But if you did not see Wizard of Lies, I'd say watch it. But otherwise, I'd probably recommend Wizard of Lies over this.
Okay.
Okay, next one, also very brief, The Vow Part 2. So again, this is about the Nexium cult that was led by Keith Raniere. Basically, the whole like self-empowerment to get over life's problems kind of
Right. I've seen videos about that. Yeah.
like not Scientology, but it's kind of a step removed. Essentially, Keith Raniere, the first season was basically explained what Nexium was, and that Raniere was exposed and arrested, and this season gets into like the trial. Essentially, season 2 is the trial. And we hear, from the women who were brainwashed and kind of woke up from the brainwashing. The most interesting element of season 2 is the spokesperson. Keith Raniere, when he explained what Nexium was, he always had these videos that played that basically had this lady, this kind of smiley lady with short hair and glasses. She would always kind of explain what the deal with, what all the benefits of Nexium. She bought into the cause. Like, she wasn't like an evil person or anything. She just literally bought into it. She cared about Nexium and did not know what Raniere, at least she claims not to know what Raniere was doing on the side. And so she has an interesting arc in this. Like, they actually sit down and interview her instead of just having her kind of like as kind of like the video that kept popping up in the first season. So they actually talked with her, and like her daughter was violated by Raniere as well, which kind of really messed with her. So that's interesting. I mean, this seems to be an end to the story, and it's a welcome end to the story because I don't think we should drag this out anymore. It's terrible what happened, and we're seeing, and they covered it pretty well. And Raniere, he got what was coming to him.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Catch up. All right. So the Pez King, delightful.
Well, the Pez Outlaw.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Pez Outlaw. My bad. Really delightful thing. I like this a lot. I really like the editing in it.
Yeah, I really liked it too. This was this was great. That was again. So I like seeing Netflix get refreshing with the subjects of the documentaries.
Absolutely, yeah. Where it's like, this is technically true crime.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the idea that you have Steve Glue here, and this guy.
I love that name, by the way.
Yeah. What I really love, I love seeing the beginnings where he would rip off the box tops and send in the prizes, and he would resell the prizes. For sure. And I love that he collected like the collapsed cereal boxes, like this like filing system of them and everything. So the idea of this guy, he basically became a Pez impresario of sorts, where he basically was reselling Pez dispensers at conventions and stuff, and he went over, basically got kind of wind of it at a convention that there's kind of like a Pez Nirvana, basically the Pez International location where you go there and you're real nice to them. They'll give you some Pez, or you can buy some Pez, which was a lot cheaper back then. And he did that, and I love the importing loophole with the whole trade thing. It's the fact that like this guy said, if these people are stupid enough to let you get ripped off, you know?
Yeah, that scene, that was definitely the biggest laugh for me, where he's he's in the airport security, like, yeah, fuck it.
I love it so much, and yeah, there's a lot of colorful characters in this, like Johann. Tell him about Johann.
Oh my god, yeah, just the very, very paranoid German man.
Yeah, the Austrian collector who has like this secret tree house that we do not know see into. I mean, apparently he's got gold up there. You know, he does not want anyone to see it because he doesn't want Pez to come after him either.
I mean, Pez is always Dragon. Like you definitely kind of can relate to the fact that Pez is just a very interesting collector's thing, right? Because it's Pez is almost like the pop figures before pop figures almost.
It definitely evokes kind of a Funko feel, yeah. Because Funko was going for like a feel of like Pez and old cereal and like stuff.
Right.
So for sure, there's definitely some connective tissue there. Pez was big for a period. I mean,
you know what my favorite element of this movie is? I mean, I think the editing is really good. It's genuinely one of the best uses of reenactment I've seen in a documentary in a while, because I really like how the reenactments are they play around with the reenactments. Almost kind of remind me of like they kind of have an I, Tonya flair almost, you know what I mean? They kind of like have a sarcastic tone to them a little bit, like for example when they're going through the guy's rejecting the ideas and he's putting all the stamps like crap, you're ignorant, and the stamps are literally just what he's saying in the interview.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely kind of like, again, the idea of Tanya. It's the whole thing. Like this stupid, unbelievable event happened. Where in this case, you wouldn't believe what happened to this guy. And for me, the thing I knew, if I had to sell you on it, what I would have said to you, Tiki, is there is a Pez mobster in this. And there is. I love that scene so much, where you have just this guy. Do you know who I am? No, I don't know who you are. I don't really care who you are. And he writes down like his name on a post-it and gives it to him. And says, "Hey, listen, we never met."
You know what that scene really actually reminded me of? It kind of gave me the vibes of Toby's scene in Babylon.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. I think my favorite element of this movie is the fact that you have the guy who's a very, very sympathetic figure throughout the whole thing, but you also have the guy who's like trying to bring him down. And I feel like the scene in the movie that really kind of made everything come together. Like before then, it was a very fun movie with an interesting premise and everything. But I feel like this makes it into a film. You know what I mean? Is the whole idea of like where the guy makes all those original figures to sell, and then basically his downfall, where he goes to the convention, he sees that Pez has replicated all of his original designs.
Yeah, so the peasant.
And the thing that really kind of caught me was how you see the interview and the actual guy is like crestfallen, man. It's like even still, it's very painful for him to talk about. And then on the other end, you see the guy who set it up, and he's like, yeah, I feel some satisfaction. It was deserved. And I love that. I love the dichotomy of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, of course, like the peasant too. At the same time, he's
oh my god, the peasant.
I love the recreation gags with that guy. He's just this big, just kind of like grumpy guy. It's like no, when he's like stamping.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was talking with. Whole like, no, you're ignorant.
Exactly, just that guy. Yeah, he's just so unlikable in all the right ways. And the fact that he manages like a happy company. Such a little happy Pez,
I love the guy who works in the candy business, and he has that dad joke at the start of his interview. He's like, it's a great, sweet industry to work in. Literally.
Yeah. It's cute.
So yeah, all in all, Pez King, honestly, probably better than any other documentary I saw in 2022. So
Cool.
yeah.
No, I agree with you, Tiki. So honestly, this was a highlight of the month for me. I really did like The Pez Outlaw.
All right, Dragon, let me tell you about Women Talking.
Is it
The
nag,
most
nag, nag, nag?
action-packed movie of the year.
Wait, really?
No, not really.
That's what I
It
thought.
is really good though.
Okay.
So the premise is basically that they are in this commune and it's based on real life stuff. It's based on a real life cult. These women are all in this commune and they start getting sexually assaulted. And the men are basically trying to gaslight them into saying, like, no, it's demons doing this. And the women are essentially like, no, we're not fucking stupid. We know it's the men. And essentially, Dragon, the movie starts at the point where the big dilemma is that all the men have been arrested because of this, but they're coming back. Like, they're getting out of jail. And the community, like the elders of the community, have demanded that the women apologize. And it's like, no, fuck that. So essentially, the core argument in the movie is, should they stay and fight or should they leave? And it's compelling as fuck. I'm not even going to lie. It's super compelling. It's got real 12 Angry Men upside to it, as far as just like, you know, the whole idea of like, it is a movie that is very dialogue driven. It's pretty much a singular location. It's a big cast of characters that all have different points of view. It's very 12 Angry Men. It really reminds me of like a modern 12 Angry Men, but just with even bigger stakes. And Ben Whipshaw is a big standout as well. And I honestly think one of the things the movie does super well is the fact that it makes the distinguishing point that the men who are abusing the women, it's not all the men in the commune. And these women, some of them do have husbands who they genuinely like know would never do this. And they're also worried about like, what do we do with the sons? And so I really like that this movie, it's not a fuck all men movie at all, because one of the big crux of the argument is literally like, what do we do about the men who, you know, like, oh, it's so interesting. And there's actually a sense of humor to it, believe it or not, Dragon. This movie actually has some surprisingly funny elements to it. It's like, I don't want to call it a dark comedy. It's certainly more of a drama. And I feel like the comedy that it does have is very much kind of like built out of that whole, like, this situation is so stressful. What the fuck else can you do but laugh? But the humor is really well done. And there's actually two little girls in the movie who are kind of the voice of the audience, Dragon. And they are literally like doing the whole like, yap, yap, yap. You guys won't stop talking. And it's delightful. So yeah, really riveting movie. I really was, I would actually really recommend this, Dragon, you know, in spite of the questionable title. I think there's a lot going for it. It's very suspenseful. It's excellent dialogue driven. The music's very, very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I really, really liked it. All right. The Whale. Oh boy. Do I have to talk about this?
Why do I have a bad feeling about this?
Yeah, you should.
Oh, God.
It's not bad. It's just, I have a feeling I would enjoy it a lot more as a play. I got pretty restless.
Is that really your main criticism of this movie?
My main criticism is that I just feel like it kind of repeats the same basic points over and over again. Like, it's an assault of misery to a certain extent.
So your complaint is that it's a sad movie.
No, I'm complaining that it's a repetitive movie. Like, I feel like it's got one note and it just kind of hits it over and over again. Let's talk Brendan Fraser, because I feel like I'm halfway between, like, it's definitely more of a performance than like the Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour, you know? But I honestly think that the makeup job was almost too intense to the point where it was almost distracting and took like I think the performance itself was excellent, but I feel like I almost wanted to see more of his actual face. Does that make sense?
I don't know, T. I think his face is there. I don't know if that's necessarily. I don't know.
I just feel like his size and it's I feel like they almost over exaggerated just how big he actually is. I don't know.
There are people that fat though.
No, I know. Yeah. I'll give it this. Hong Chow was fantastic.
Yeah.
Easily the best thing in the movie for me. I loved her character. And Sadie Sink was I will say this with Sadie Sink. I think that oh god, the shit, man, my memory sucks now. The girl from Everything Everywhere All at Once that I really don't like, who got the Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
I think Sadie Sink should have gotten that nomination instead.
Okay. Did you recognize the young man in the movie?
Ty Simpkins, yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yeah. His role was okay. Overall, interesting characters. I guess my one thing with like it's very much body horror to a certain extent, right?
Well, I mean, kind of.
I mean, like,
it's not like aggressive body horror, but it's just kind of more after the fact. Like, man, that is kind of horrific. Yeah.
The main thing that kind of like there's just like so much like sweat and like I feel like the makeup job on Frasier is almost kind of working on overdrive. One thing with Frasier's performance that I feel like not a lot of people are talking about, though, that is really impressive is the man is consistently out of breath the whole damn movie.
He has like a lung issue, which they're definitely portraying very realistically. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Honestly, this is going to sound like a weird criticism, but I really don't think Darren Aronofsky went hard enough with this style. Like, I feel like there's more, just given Aronofsky's output, there's more that he could have done. Because this really just feels like they're basically just kind of filming the stage play, right? Like, I don't really think, like, a good example of a stage play that's elevated with style is the Father. And this, I just don't feel like has that upside. It's basically just like, yeah, I am certainly watching a stage play. So, I don't know, man. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It definitely didn't land with me as much as it landed with you. Unfortunate.
Okay.
All right. Oh, God. All Quiet on the Western Front. Wow. I really outpaced you with the ketchup this month. I'm sorry.
Well, you had the whale, so I put in I saw the whale. You now saw the whale.
Did you watch All Quiet?
No, I didn't.
No? Okay. Yeah, Dragon, this is actually, it's better than I thought it would be. I think one of the interesting things it does is I very much feel like this is kind of like a marriage of something like 1917 and Dunkirk, where I feel like it has kind of like, it's more visceral than 1917. Because for some reason for me, like 1917 didn't work for me as a movie because I almost felt like the whole like, oh, it's one shot. It almost was like distracting. It is very visceral. Like the whole thing of this movie is that the character starts out just starry eyed and like, oh, I'm going to get, he's basically like Steve Rogers, right? Like he's patriotic. He wants to go to the war and serve his country. And just right away, I really like that as soon as he gets to the front, it's just like, no, like you can see on the actor's face, it's just like, oh shit, what the hell did I get myself into? And it's intense, man. It's intense. It's a survival movie, and it's very modern in the way that it tells the story. Daniel Gruhl actually pops up. He's kind of a side story. I'm not quite sure how I feel about his character because he basically plays a general, and his side of the, like I think he has a good performance, and the stuff he has is interesting. It's just kind of like if it's one of those things like, you know, how you and I kind of joked about how you could edit Darkest Hour and Dunkirk into the same movie.
Yeah.
That's basically what Daniel Gruhl's stuff feels like. Is like, you know, it feels like Darkest Hour type scenes edited into a Dunkirk type movie. But I would recommend you see this, Dragon. I don't know. You might be a little squeamish on the violence because it is very violent. But I mean, it's no more violent than something like Saving Private Ryan. So, I mean, if you can stomach Saving Private Ryan, you can stomach this. But I do think it's a solid contender for Best Picture. Like watching it, you know, it's not the most enthralling thing in the world. It doesn't like hit me to my core like Dunkirk did. But I can see why it got the nominations. It's a very well-made movie, very suspenseful, very immersive. I would definitely recommend it. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Okay.
Are you ready for
I'm gonna,
mystery? Yeah.
Can I guess which one this is?
Okay.
Is it Banshees? Did you watch Banshees?
No, I didn't watch Banshees.
Ah, okay.
Are you ready? Now you ruined my whole dramatic framing. Are you ready for a mystery movie?
What is your mystery movie?
I don't think you're ready. I'm going to say Nope.
Oh, you watched Nope. Okay.
Yes, I watched Nope. Yes.
Awesome. What do you think?
I liked it, but I don't think it's as I don't think it's as fit for like a general audience as Get Out.
Are you hung up on the monkey?
I'm getting there. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's just that everybody, like, you either get what they're doing with the monkey or you don't. That's the big dividing point with the movie.
Okay, so here's the thing. I liked it, but I don't think it's as fit for a general audience as Get Out was, for example. I think Get Out is very all encompassing. You can show anyone Get Out, and they're gonna like it.
Uh-huh.
Where this is good, I don't think this is gonna grab everyone the same way Get Out did. I love the setup. I love the UFO update. I like all the stuff we do there. I love the chimp flashback with Stephen Young. The problem is, for me, I don't think they paralleled each other enough story-wise, at least from my read on that movie. I just feel like those are two individually good things. I don't think aside from the whole, yeah, we don't train chimps anymore, I don't know if there's a lot of connective tissue there. I don't know.
It's the lengths that people will go to for spectacle. That's the big driving theme of the movie. And that's the connective point, I thought.
Well, I guess that makes sense now you bring that up. It's just kind of bothers me. It doesn't really read like that when you watch it the first.
Like the fact that he's basically like, you know, he's running this theme park, but really he's making his real money off of the Gordy stuff, you know, with the people who are paying thousands of dollars to go into that room. Like, you know what I mean?
At that point, I don't think got conveyed that he was making most of the money from that versus the park itself. I mean, I know we saw little people in attendance there, but I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying he's clearly holding on to the Gordy thing.
Yeah, he is, for sure.
Oh God, you know what my favorite moment in that whole movie is?
Is it when he's like beating on the lady after she's still alive?
No. What's wrong with you? No, I'm not gonna watch that movie and be like, yeah, that's my favorite part.
No, I mean, I thought you meant your favorite element of the monkey of the Gordy stuff.
I love when Stephen Yeun's telling the story and he's recapping it via the SNL.
Oh, sketch. Right. Okay, so when he's literally telling the story. Okay.
Yeah. He's literally telling the story through the SNL sketch. Yeah. That's such a great piece of writing.
I initially thought they might have actually gone as far as we're going to see the SNL sketch, aren't we?
We didn't. Oh, I would have loved to have seen that SNL sketch.
No, but yeah.
Oh my God, just the way that Stephen Yeun talks about Chris Kattan is just fucking priceless. It's priceless. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
And Chris Kattan is killing it.
Yeah. So that's that.
I think of Chris Kattan, I just instantly think of Monkey Bone.
Right. But yeah, the whole thing with Gordy, that whole like that. I think it's a fascinating idea. I just wish maybe you read a little more like directly what was going on there. But I liked it though, and I figured there was something on there, but I didn't quite get it.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I love how we shot that too, and literally like the shot of like that we had like the bloody hand and everything, and it's like the way that's intercut. That's that's great. Anyway, so yeah, here's the thing. I question a few bits here and there. Like, for example, I think the revelation about the UFO is cool. I love that. It's quite clever. The idea that essentially, we've historically we've always kind of called UFO landings like weather balloons and stuff. So the idea
Uh-huh.
we've kind of literalized, that's a really
The
good idea.
UFO is a literal cloud.
I love that. See,
Yeah,
take
yeah.
take notes, Fantastic Four. Galactus is not a cloud, but this thing could be a cloud.
Oh my god, this thing could absolutely be Galactus too.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a hell of a Galactus design, dude.
Oy. So, here's the thing: the sister, bit much. I mean, what bothered me about it. Here's the thing: I get how it plays. It's a part of the story, but still, when she shows up and I like the dynamic of the siblings. You have the OJ, who's
Uh-huh.
like he's the guy, he's all business, and basically he's very much the animal trainer. He's not
His
really
best friends are horses.
exactly his best friends are horses. He's not really one for the showbiz crowd. He's just like no,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
work with the horse. Like don't look at these. Giving him very direct instructions there. But his sister's the showman. Like she's like
Uh-huh.
well, give him the warm welcome and
I
wheeling and
also like
dealing with
that
everything.
his sister's the one who doesn't want to be in the horse business, but she's the one kind of keeping it afloat because of her social skills.
Exactly. So I like how they complement each other. By the
Yeah.
same token, though, and I know that this kind of voices the dilemma, in which again we have no movie without the dilemma because they need to get fired from that job initially to be desperate to do what they do in the movie. But it just feels like she shows up late, which already again that's part of the silly dynamic. But she shows up late, she gives her spiel, and what is the first thing she does? I'm gonna go craft service. Like, no, why don't you wait 5 minutes and then go to craft service, lady? See, that bothers me. It's like, come on.
God, every time I see craft services in a movie, I just think Channel Awesome Dragon.
Really, every
I
time?
just think, you see Channel Awesome, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so point being, there's a lot of really. So Nope has, I think Nope's, I think it's very well made. I think it's good. Again,
Do
I
you
just don't
kind of
think.
like, do you get the Jaws upside with it though?
Well, I mean, well, you mean like the town having like a draw like Jaws?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I get that much. Yeah, it's just yeah.
Like, I feel like this is much more authentically recreating kind of that early Spielberg blockbuster than something like J.J. Abrams. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I guess, but Abrams really only did it that one time though with Super 8. At least he was
Yeah,
trying
and I'm
to.
saying that was terrible.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right. Anyway, but yeah, Nope was very well directed. So again, Jordan, I think to me this looked a lot more appealing than Us.
I think this is a pretty solid, like, midpoint between his two movies. It's definitely less accessible than Get Out, but it's definitely more accessible than Us. So I think it's a solid middle ground.
Hmm.
All
Okay.
right. Okay, so Fire of Love. I just watched this today, and Dragon Eye. It's pretty good. Like
Yeah.
I'm not in love with it, but I will say, out of every movie from 2022, this one might be the one that I'm most sad that I couldn't see on the big screen.
Hmm.
Because some of the footage of the volcanoes is just incredible. Like, I mean, visually, this movie is spectacular. And the really cool thing is that every single piece of footage in this movie is home video footage. And these people died decades ago. Like, these people died basically in the Mount St. Helen era, like in the early 90s. So this whole movie is basically, piecing together all their just endless hours of research footage. Because the sell of the movie is that they are essentially the utmost experts on volcanoes, right? Like, they are like the top men when it comes to volcanoes. Except it's a top man and a top woman. And they're in love. And it's a man and it's obviously a husband and wife. And the Dragon, what really got me about this movie is I can very much relate to it in the sense of, like, these people love volcanoes as much as I love roller coasters. I know that's like kind of weird to say, but like Dragon, I have this thing now where it's like I want to go on as many roller coasters as I can, and I have a big bucket list, and I know for a fact that I'm not going to be able to get to all of the things on my bucket list in my life. Probably not even everything in America. Probably a very few things outside of America, if anything outside of America. And I can very much relate to these people where it's like all they wanted to do was the volcanoes. Like real life did not matter to them. The volcanoes were their life. And I think this movie captures that really, really well. I think it's edited very well. As I said, the footage is extraordinary because these people literally got closer to volcanoes than any other living person, probably. So the footage is just like spectacular. Like I wish I would have seen, if I could have seen it on IMAX, I would have. My only nitpick is that the narrator has this very dry, almost kind of monotone delivery, and it's a little distracting because it's like, come on, lady, put a little bit more emotion into it because this story is genuinely beautiful. So yeah, Dragon, I would very much recommend this, if anything, just to give you something to root for in the best documentary category, because I very much am rooting for this now. I thought it was really, really good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, in other words, they need someone to lava.
Yes. All right.
Well, speaking of, this was intentional, by the way. From one Oscar-nominated documentary,
I see what you did there.
To the other. This is the one. So this is the one I sought out. I sought out, as I told you I would, because it had a really interesting premise. Navanali. Oh, sorry. Navali. So yeah, this is one of the. I think this is the front runner probably for the best documentary feature for the Oscars this year. So this is about Alexei Navalny. He is basically kind of a critic of Putin in Russia. So he's a critic of Putin, and basically he did these YouTube videos and everything where basically calls out like how things are unjust and everything he's doing. Basically, a lot of people have criticisms on Putin, obviously, and this guy basically he's the most entertaining and kind of like this guy. I don't think they can have elections in Russia. I'm pretty sure they can't. This guy's like the people's champion, essentially. If they could elect the guy, it would be this guy.
Right.
So the idea is this guy's kind of like a known figure, and he and Putin is Putin. Just to show you the impact this guy's having, Putin refuses to say his name. He won't say his name.
Wow, that's pretty bad. That's
like
funny.
Putin knows this guy, and he hates this guy. He's the most vocal. Because the idea is like in Russia,
that's actually pretty hardcore.
So the idea is that Putin silences anyone. He takes care of anyone who like speaks out against him. But the fact that this guy is kind of in the kind of the space of become bigger than God, bigger than him to a degree. It's like
right, like if they take him out, then there would be consequences, kind of thing.
Exactly. So because of that, he really dislikes this guy, and he can't like silence him, like control the narrative like he can with anyone else.
Okay, now I'm just picturing like this guy and Putin in like a Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd cartoon.
God. So here's where things get interesting. Okay, so here's the big crux of the movie here. So this guy, Putin tries to poison him. So he's on a plane.
Oh yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Of course, Putin is known for poisoning people a lot, usually with kind of a radiation derivative like polonium. But anyway, so he poisons this guy. He sends like a crack team of guys on a plane to sneak into the plane and poison him. And basically, Navalny, he after we see the poisoning and everything happen and everything, like he's on the plane, we follow like all the shady stuff, like he's going to a hospital and seems like people are trying to delay him going to the hospital and everything. And it's very tense. It's very like, oh God, what's gonna happen to this poor? He's telling his own story, by the way. So he's telling things, and then we're seeing all
kind of like that Man on Wire sort of thing where it's like yeah, I get it. Okay.
So he anyway, he basically then after he recovers. After he recovers, he goes to efforts to prove this. He basically, goes to prove that he was poisoned by Putin, and he does it amazing. I'm not going to tell you how he does it, but the way he does it is just utterly amazing. And you're like the camera guy who's in the room with him, who you can see like fist pumping the air, like this is amazing.
That's cool.
I
love when documentaries break the fourth wall like that.
Yeah, so ultimately, without saying all the ins and outs of what happens, this is a sobering tragedy of how bad things are in Russia right now. I'll say this much, but it's it was very enthralling. It's what I look for in a documentary. I'm not gonna say it's like the best of all time, but I think for this year, it's for me. There's still one other documentary I really wanted to see, but it's a front runner for me.
Okay. All right. Shattered Glass, Drag. Do you know anything about this?
No, I don't.
Okay, Hayden frickin' Christensen. Anakin
Yeah.
Skywalker.
Hmm.
This is like, oh my god. His performance is incredible in this movie. Like, so basically the elevator pitch of this movie is it's a true story. It's a biopic essentially of a journalist who was essentially caught red-handed um making up facts from his news stories and essentially embellishing his stories. And so the whole movie is essentially like this slowly kind of coming to light, and Hayden Christensen plays the guy. His name's I think not Philip Glass, Daniel Glass, I think. I don't know. Glass. His last name is Glass, and Shattered Glass. And the whole movie is just kind of like this exercise in Hayden Christensen, kind of like he's trying to keep his cool, he's trying to maintain his composure, and he's like building this house of cards of lies throughout the movie that you know is going to come crumbling down, and it's super suspenseful. It's cool. Peter Skarsgård, another Skarsgård, he he's in the movie as essentially he plays the editor of the newspaper, but there's this really interesting situation because the previous editor basically went against the head boss and got fired because of it. So he's like the people's champion, right? Like he's the boss that the main guy fired, and then this other guy came in to replace him. So nobody like guy, right? Like that's kind of like the office dynamic. Nobody likes this guy who was just put in to replace the boss that they all love. But this guy is legitimately the only person who sees Glass's stories for what they are. So it's this great kind of workplace tension of like Hayden's trying to manipulate the situation and manipulate, curry people's favor. Like he has this opening monologue about like all you have to do to succeed in the work business is to pay attention to the little things, and stuff like getting someone's favorite, like the Angel Batista, Bear Claw, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Drake, I think you would love this, honestly. It's very much, I think it's everything you would look for in a biopic. It's, there's some real tension in this, some genuine tension. And I don't want to spoil it, but I really love the ending. I really think the end point is great. And there's actually some really interesting stuff that they do with the framing device as well. So yeah, high recommend here for Shattered Glass. All right. Okay, Call Me Miss Cleo.
Yeah, so this is it's a documentary on HBO Max. It was put up there in December. It's you remember Miss Cleo, don't you?
Of course I remember Miss Cleo.
Yes, it's about like call me now, and it's about
yes.
the old Miss Cleo scam, as it were, and
very much bullshit. She's not even Jamaican.
Exactly. They talk about all that. So this is so it's a scam, but the idea she didn't care about these people. She was giving them like personal advice, even though she was not psychic. And it's she liked to bring comfort, and and we kind of covered the interesting stuff like how they were kind of taking the court over the fact of even if they had a disclaimer, they thought that would like protect them. It didn't. It's informative, and I think it's really fun as they kind of cover the pop cultural impact that Miss Cleo had, and particularly that one of the people they had to do the talking heads is Raven Simone.
Oh, okay.
So like her whole career is kind of jump started by Miss Cleo.
right.
So it's kind of important. So yeah, this is fun. I don't know if I wouldn't say it's as good as the Pez Outlaw, but I mean this is like cute. This is kind of like film and kind of like looking back to kind of the age of the nostalgic. It's kind of nice. I think it's worth looking into if you have nothing better to do.
All right. Yeah. Finally, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, aka How the Hell Did I Go This Long Without Seeing This Movie? Because this movie was fucking made for me, dude. I love the aesthetics of this movie so much. I was worried about this movie where I was worried that it would be one of those things where it's like it has the iconic box art with the claymation, killer clown head. And I was worry that it would be one of those things where the movie itself does not live up to the box art. No, fuck that. The movie excels the box art. I mean, this thing is it's Wild Dragon. It is glorious. It is glorious B-movie slasher fun from top to bottom. Wonderful makeup, wonderful practical effects. Their alien dragon, their spaceship is just a giant circus tent in the middle of the woods.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
And they spray people with cotton candy laser guns, and the cotton candy forms like this big cocoon around the people, and they take the cocoon people, the cotton candy cocoons, and they harvest them. It's nuts. And I love it. I really do. I mean, just visually, this movie is crazy. It's so good. Like, all the different designs of the clowns, these mutant clowns and the makeup. It's, oh God, as a horror fan, I'm kind of gushing about it, honestly. I really, I don't know. It's one of those things where I was just kind of browsing Prime for something to watch, and I was like, wait a minute. Killer clowns. I've never actually seen that. And I was kind of dreading, like, God, I hope it's one of those things where it's like, I hope it's not like 45 minutes of like stupid teen shenanigans, teen sex shenanigans. And then like the clowns are going to come in at like the halfway point or something. No, it doesn't waste. Like, there's about 5 minutes of like, teen camp party stuff. But very quickly it goes into the UFO shaped like a circus tent, and it just kind of goes from there, and the clowns like just go out into the city and start. Oh, it's good. It's really good. I honestly think you might enjoy it just because it's not scary at all, right? It's like it's about as scary as something like Little Shop of Horrors or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. You know what I mean? It's like that level of scary. But the makeup and the effects and the practical stuff, the designs are all just killer. So,
well, it's a very appropriate way of describing it.
Indeed. All right, Dragon, I am looking at the February movies. Man, we are going to pay the piper for this month being good. I mean, we have Ant-Man. Yeah. We'll see. Like, you know how I feel about Ant-Man. I'm a little burned out on the MCU. I'll see it, but I'm not necessarily excited about it. Cocaine Bear is definitely my big event movie of the month for sure.
Figures.
And also Knock at the Cabin, but that's like practically here already. So, but I am stoked for it. Yeah. But other than that, man, it's like we have some shit.
It'd be hysterical about Knock at the Cabin.
What?
What if it was like a marketing campaign where Shyamalan, in reality, it was a twist in the marketing, and the twist was Batista. It wasn't like an apocalypse thing. It was just like Batista was like a Jehovah's Witness who knocks at the door.
Have you heard the word of Jesus Christ?
That's it. Like, what if that was all he did? Though? Like, he and his father just showed up.
Well, I mean, he is a religious fanatic in the movie, so.
But I'm saying, just imagine it was like kind of like a casual feel-good movie where he shows up like, would you guys like to hear about our Lord and Savior? It's like it's a friendly knock at the cabin. Like Shaman.
It's like Kirk Cameron saving Christmas, except somehow good.
Exactly.
I still can't believe I convinced you to cover that movie.
Yeah, it was probably mistaken.
All right. And then I mean, but like, did you hear that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is getting a Fathom event screening?
Really?
Yep. And then it's like we have shit like 80 for Brady, Dragon. You want to go see 80 for Brady?
I thought that already came out.
No, it comes out this week.
I'm still not seeing
it. What about Magic Mike's Last Dance, Dragon? Magic Mike's Last Dance. Get your tickets now.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Best and worst.
All right. Well, I gotta be honest. Best and worst is a little tricky for me. I mean, I think I didn't really have anything glowing this month. I thought everything was kind of in the okay space. I think the best I had by proxy of that is probably going to be. I mean, I think It might be the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker, honestly. I think because I liked You People, but the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker is something that kind of grabbed me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the worst is probably going to be, like, you know what? Actually, let me basically, let's just say best is kind of a tie between the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker and the Bonnelly.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Worst is. That's the thing. I don't really. I didn't have any worse because if I said you would use ranking at the bottom, but that's not necessarily means it was bad. So you just
Uh-huh.
kind of like lower tier. I don't know. Also, if you have Nope. I mean, Nope was good, but
Don't you dare.
I'm not. I don't mean it was bad. I'm just saying yet again, it's another.
I'm not
good
going to put The Whale as worse, so don't you
No,
dare put
I
Nope as
know. I
worse.
meant for the good. Jake. I mean, it's yet another tie for the good because I mean, there's Nope might act. If de facto Nope might be the best, but
Okay.
in a de facto sense. And like I mean it's more cinematic than our ducks, but still our the Hatchet Wheel and Hitchhiker was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I could go a couple different directions with best. Like honestly, part of me wants to say Fire of Love just because that movie really did land with me. Part of me wants to say Women Talking because it was genuinely like another heavy hitter best picture nominee that I think it's up there with other best picture stuff that I really like Banshees. Like not as good, it's not as good as Banshees, but it's kind of in that tier. And I honestly think Killer Clowns from Outer Space, it's not even fair because that movie is just so up my alley. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go with Shattered Glass as my best. Just a nice little neutral option that I feel was it really took me by surprise. So yeah, I will go with Shattered Glass as the best. But again, I'm sorry, Dragon. I feel like I had a way better month than you did because I really liked pretty much everything.
I mean, I liked I didn't love my stuff, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bonnelly is the thing I kind of get most excited for, I guess. Perhaps. I don't know.
So for worst, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with A Man Called Otto. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's just an aggressively safe movie. It's got a couple decent moments with Hanks, but there's also a lot of cringe. So yeah, A Man Called Otto. Although I will say that the last 10 minutes of Missing is that's up there with the worst 10 minutes of any movie that I saw in 2022. Missing goes that off the rails. All right. Well, folks, we've waxed on long enough. It's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our Movie Memoirs!